Welcome back to another fantastic episode of Red Seal Gaming Presents. I think we'll subtitle this one, The History of the RSG Members' Gaming Experiences. So, normally I do a little intro, discuss myself, 55-year-old gamer, so on and so forth. Sal lies about his age again, says he's 40.
Yeah, I don't know how I did
When
that
he's really
last
50.
week. I'm 50. I am 50.
There's one person at this table in their 40s, just saying.
And Chris looks disappointed again, and so on and so forth. But in chatting with some of our customers at the store, there are a lot of people don't know why we think we have the credentials to critique games and talk about games and so on and so forth. So
Let me break down my resume for you.
So that's basically what this episode will be. It'll be a little bit of a kind of like how we got into gaming and maybe, as teenagers or progressed until the point that we're old bastards now and how we got into it and what we
Our
like.
path of glory.
A path to glory. So,
Hint,
being
The annals of time.
Yeah.
being an old man, I'm going to go last. And
Whoa.
He needs the longest amount of time.
Sal
so.
being obviously not 50 and being 40, he will go second.
Yeah.
But the young gun will start our journey through time here.
Yes.
And Chris will start explaining to us how he became a Red Seal gamer.
How I became the owlbear that you see before you.
before you.
The disappointed person that you see before you. So I guess I'm going to go all the way back to the beginning.
Hopefully not in utero.
There was no gaming there, unfortunately. So I grew up as an only child, and so I was lucky enough that my mom was able to stay at home with me. So my first memory of board gaming was probably some summer as an elementary school kid playing things like Hi-Ho Cheerio,
Oh, my.
Shoots and Ladders,
Melbourne?
never played that. I never played that until I was older.
Candyland.
Uno, Sorry. One of my mom's favorite was Sorry. So I remember playing tons of board games with my mom as a kid, and I remember as I grew into my middle school years, my high school years, is still had a love for board games. I actually discovered chess when I was in middle school, going into high school, and I got really competitive into that and got pretty good at it.
How good?
Good enough.
Good enough that I don't want to play you?
Good enough. I got some scholarships for it, but that's beside the point.
Scholarship. All right. Mental note. Let me write that down. Do not play chess
No chess.
with Chris. Okay, good.
All right, so now that you got that written down, so I played chess, and that was kind of where that ended. But my middle school to high school years, my family moved around a little bit. We weren't not nomadic by any stretch of the imagination, but didn't have a solid friend group. You guys have known each other for
Too long.
way too long.
30 plus. I'm trying to figure them.
Just jumping around a lot. I didn't have that kind of group, so I spent a lot of time doing solitary things like playing video games. So middle school, high school, I kind of dropped board games and went video games almost completely, like Nintendo, Super Nintendo, N64. Loved them. Had friends that would play those with me, but never board gaming. And then I remember vividly the very first time, it was the Morristown Mall, which is down in South Jersey. It's a suburb of Camden, Philadelphia. Morristown Mall had, and it was like a beacon in the night. It was a
This is core memory activated.
yeah,
here,
this
right?
it's crazy,
is
and
the
I'll
beacon in the
explain
night.
why. It was one of the old WotC stores. It was a Wizards of the Coast store.
You see,
So-
we all have that. See that?
Yeah, let's go. Let's wind back the time machine to the '90s in retail. All the fluorescent lights were like this really crusty yellow color that you see sometimes in old government buildings, like the place that I work.
Cigarette smoke. Definitely cigarette smoke.
A little bit. And it was white on beige. It was white tile floor, white shelving units, white ceiling, and I grew up Kmart. I grew up before the Walmarts became the New Jersey. So Kmart, Bradley's, Calder, they were all the same, cookie cutter. You had your Risk, you had your Monopoly, you had your Sorry, and get out the door. That was it. I walk into the WotC store and it is different. Oh, yes. It's it was darker. The room was not white on white. It was like a concrete poured floor. The shelves were made of wood. The walls were darker, a la Red Seal Gaming, and it was just a vibe. It was a cool, almost dungeon. And I remember stumbling upon Magic for the first time, Magic the card game. So it was 99.
Yeah, okay, I'm curious.
2000. I can tell you that the first box of Magic, the first booster box I bought was 7th edition.
Okay.
I remember that vividly because I remember the Sarah Angel being on the cover of the booster box. I hate it now, but it was cool then.
Oh, what would you have? I love the little dig to Dan in there.
Hey, you
Craig.
gotta make sure you edit it.
I hate it because Sarah. If those that don't know, Sarah Angel's my favorite, so I get it.
So I mean that's that was my first like hobby experience with board gaming. Was going into that store and seeing all the stuff, and they had D&D. For whatever reason, I didn't gravitate to that wall, but the Magic stuff was really cool. I loved baseball cards when I was a kid. I'm a huge Phillies fan, huge baseball fan. So the fact that it was a game, which I really loved from my childhood, and it was on rectangular pieces of cardboard that I could collect and throw in a binder.
Similar to
it checked a whole lot of boxes. I could play with them, and if I didn't have anything to play with them, I could just put them in a binder and look at the pretty art cards.
Collect them.
And because I was into that kind of fantasy trope, that kind of stuff, even though there weren't a whole lot of good movies for fantasy at the time, I really enjoyed that trope of stuff.
90s,
Like
90s were kind of rough, probably.
Early, yeah, that was tough.
like the like monsters and heroes and shining swords and things like that.
So that's Magic for you.
That's
much.
Magic for me, and then that's my high school years. I go away to college, and none of my friends really played board games. Not to mention it's expensive. It's kind of expensive to do that as a hobby. So going to college, and I have to buy my books. I have to get myself to class. I have other things that I would like to purchase. Games is usually not high on the list.
Also, alcohol probably mixed.
Well, I'm not going to say that, but I mean, you get the idea.
I get it. I was there way before you.
I would end up playing every once in a while. Like I had a friend who had a big pizza box of Magic cards, and like every other month or so, we would bang it out, build some decks, play some games, and then like, oh, that was a lot of fun. I really enjoyed that. Now let's put it back to the side and go play some Pong or something like that. It wasn't until I graduated, I got my first job up here in Central Jersey. My girlfriend, now fiance, now wife, lives up here, so that's why I migrated up here to Central Jersey.
So you tell me Beth made 3 mistakes.
Yeah, too many. But so she lived in the Fords area, in Woodbridge area. My best friend from college lived in the Island area, which is also up here in Central Jersey. So it made a perfect sense that when I got my first job, I could have worked and lived down South Jersey where I'm from, or I could move up here and be with my new core group of friends. And so I migrated, much to the chagrin of my parents. But being a mall rat from the 90s, I loved going to the mall. So, Woodbridge Mall, Menlo Mall is great. I'm just going to walk around and just have a good time. And I stumble into the then mecca of Central Jersey, the Game Room store.
Game Room.
Yes, early.
Which is where I actually met these two hooligans.
Hooligans.
They were customers at the Game Room store, usually on the weekends. I wasn't actually working then, but we got connected through, we said last podcast, Big John.
Yeah, we knew a guy.
You knew a guy.
I knew a guy.
He just happened to be a guy and a half.
That's guy and a half. He's going to be like, shout out. Watch. He was so happy about the shout out before. He's going to be even happy
good.
now.
But anyhow, so like I walk in that store and I'm in my mid-20s, about 22, 23 maybe, and there's Magic on the shelf. It's like, I remember this from when I was in high school. And even after that, and we had this discussion a couple minutes ago, even though it was only like 5 or 6 years, it still hit that switch of like, that's a comfortable thing. So then I ended up going to the Game Room store, hanging out there for a while, and ended up getting a job there. And then once I got the job there, it was all downhill. I worked there for like 6 or 7 years. I played almost every board game that was on those shelves.
Am I the bottom of the hill? Is that what you're telling me? My store's the bottom of the hill?
No, well, it might be. You never know. The bottom of the hill for the bottom of the
road.
The bottom of the hill for my savings account. But I played all those board games that were on there. That was my introduction. Not really my introduction to, because there was a Warhammer store in the Cherry Hill Mall in South Jersey.
Yes.
But it was my introduction to actually playing Warhammer. I had bought a box. I had built models. I loved building model cars when I was a kid. So the idea of building little orcs and little humans was good, but that was as far as it got. There was no rule book for me. It was literally, I'm going to buy the plastic things and build them. Maybe paint them. That never happened. But then going to the game room, like I played Warhammer. I played 40K. We actually sold War Machine there for a long time. That's probably the mini game I've played the most, is actually War Machine. I played so much of that.
That was super hot then.
And then, all the card games that came out. So the World of Warcraft TCG came through the Game Room store. Magic we sold all the time. X-Wing, my first introduction to X-Wing was at the Game Room store. So like I skipped Series 1, but as soon as Series 2 came out and the Millennium Falcon was on the shelf, I was sold from that. It was awesome at that point. And then really that's kind of, I started hanging out with you guys. You guys were big into Warhammer Fantasy.
Big.
So I jumped on,
really big.
I jumped onto that bandwagon. Shout out to Beto. I loved the undead stuff. I was the big Death Star ghouls.
Yeah.
I loved playing that. And then that kind of the end. At that point, the end times were coming in Warhammer.
You came in right before end times. Yeah.
Which actually, to GW's credit, end times is what drew me in. Like the idea of there being this kind of like big crescendo
Climactic,
moment.
yeah.
I didn't know it was actually going to be a crescendo with a precipice. Like
Yeah,
I thought it
yeah.
was going to. I thought it was going to be
Yeah.
a slow turn into something new. But here it was it was a deep dive.
Yeah, quote the end in End Times, right? So like,
Yeah, but usually they do those. Oh, this is the end. This is the last. That it's like, and they kind of like mail it in a little bit. This was not. They
No, this is
they
over.
ended
And
it
I would
full
like to,
send.
I would like to take this moment to say that the only thing that survived the end times was a dwarf. Just wanted to say that.
and Sigmar, right? And Sigmar
Technically,
riding
kinda-
a comet.
He kind of left.
and Nagash.
And the guy. I mean, there were spirits and souls, but apparently Gotrek somehow survived.
listen to me. The history is written from Sigmar's point of view. Being
Oh,
called
yeah.
Sigmar. Let's forget. Not forget that Archeon. They ate the whole planet.
They ate the whole planet.
We'll go. Let's
that-
not get into the End Times.
So that gets you.
So that gets me into the
to
basement.
us, the basement.
That gets
Oh,
me into the basement with you guys,
wait,
which
wait.
sounds a little weird, but it's a good thing. It's a good thing to be in the basement.
We got. You know what? Well, I will mention the basement when I do my.
All right.
Some people won't know what the basement is.
And
That's not like
then-
a punishment
yeah,
zone.
it sounds bad.
So we were playing fantasy battles. We were playing Warhammer, and then you referenced a couple podcasts ago the idea that when fantasy battles is over, it was almost like, well, what are we going to do now? We're just going to not play any games anymore.
Yeah.
do nothing.
So then it turned into, well, let's find something else to play. Let me show you this board game. Let's do this. Let's do that. And then once again, shout out to Big John because he also was kind of like shoehorning that in, even though
The board
the games
game
that you
side.
guys were playing were the ones that I taught him how to play. So just don't forget that.
We won't go there.
But then we get into like Lords of Waterdeep, one of the best games, ever made, as far as I'm concerned. It's so versatile, and it kind of opened the floodgates of, oh, there's other things that we can do. So then we as a group started playing those games more and like branching out. Oh, well, let's try this one. Oh, that one was kind of bad. We don't want to play that one anymore, but we can go back to this one, or we can go in a different direction.
Well, especially in a group mentality when one guy doesn't have to spend the 60 to 80 bucks.
Mhm.
We could throw in 10, 20 bucks each. That's one of the joys to board gaming is you could all just be like,
Yeah, it's just universal.
what do we got this week? Oh, we saw this new game. It just came out. All right, let's go. Ante up, 10 bucks, 20 bucks, boom. You know, it's like buying a burger.
Yeah,
Or-
it's
or
the beauty.
a
It's the beauty
burger
of
and
the
a
group
beer,
experience. Yeah.
And then boom, you try it, and like I said, if you like it, we play it. What was the one with the gods? The devils and the angels. It was a
Angels,
brown
You brought that
Battle
one.
of Souls.
Battle
Battle for
Souls,
Souls.
right? That game.
That was the
actually-
2-player game. Yeah.
That game actually scared the crap out of me, being a bit of a religious.
But that was like one of
person,
those first games we never would have picked that up.
Never
I remember
would've
the
picked up.
box being very
Yeah, so
indescript. Like,
that's a deep cut. So the Battle for Souls was one person played the demons and one person played the angels, and it was literally a battle for the souls of the
Yeah.
people on the plane of existence.
Yeah.
And he would play cards as the angel, I would play cards as the demon, and we would just be literally winning souls off
Souls
the
off
board,
the
trying to
board,
kind of
yeah.
like pull them to your side. It was
Yeah.
very,
I-
very biblical and
I
dark.
felt
but it
bad
was,
when I lost that game.
you
When I
let,
lost that game, I felt
you
bad.
let them down.
I felt like I let the world down.
biblical.
But yeah, so that was started the basement, and we hung out probably pretty much weekly
It is
from
again.
that point
I'm gonna-
on.
Wait, that's
Two basements.
three mentions of the.
I'm then going to transition to then we turned into the bullshit castle,
Oh,
which was what we affectionately call Sal's backyard.
Yeah, that became. Yeah, it's 4:00 in the morning. What are we still doing? Talking
talking
about.
about because we're too busy. You know what? Maybe we should start a podcast. That's what was. I think that's what
Yeah.
started that.
You know
too,
how
right?
you knew it was late? It was late because my sprinklers came on in my yard.
right.
And those were set for like everyone's supposed to be dead asleep
Like
for
5 in the
hours.
morning,
And
right?
I'm like, what's that noise? I'm like, oh, that's my sprinklers
on. It would
watering
scare
my
the crap
lawn.
out of it.
There
And
were there were a number of times where I left your place with the sun coming up.
Yeah.
Yes.
And we were doing nothing but just chit chatting. We might have played like X-Wing or a game of something,
Yeah.
at like
Yeah.
8:00 in the evening.
Yeah.
We would go outside just to hang out because the weather was getting nicer since it was dark. And then we
Sal would
be
whip up some late night hot dogs or
Yeah.
burgers, and next thing I know, it's like you said, 5 o'clock in the morning.
I'd smoke a cigar and normally would take hours. And
Yeah.
I'm like, oh, this thing's
This
done
thing's
already?
done.
And I'm like, yeah, because
And
you've been here
that's,
for hours.
I think that's when
and
I
that was
said,
the second cigar that
I
night.
think
Yeah.
that's when I said if we just slap some mics in front of us,
Well, this was.
and it would be an interesting.
This is kind of our
people listening
bullshit
to the- yeah.
castle. Like,
Yeah.
it's us like going over the gaming world and like,
Mm-hmm.
you know, trying to figure it out
Mm-hmm.
as a group. Like what are they doing? Like, why is this happening? Or like, you know. So I think that was.
Why did this game die? Why is this? Let's look at this book. Oh, this is a new rule.
Yeah,
Let's
what do
check
you,
that out.
How do you
Let's-
feel about it? Like,
Yeah.
how does this affect, you know, do you still want to play this? Or like, is it like, there was always those, you know, emotional roller coasters we would go through with like events and news, and, or we'd get so pumped the hype. Like, I remember getting high on the hype, just like, oh my, I can't wait to see this come out. Like, you know, so.
So then we got into a section time where I think we talked more about games than play them.
Yes.
which I think happens in all groups. I think there's ebbs and flows.
Yeah.
We actually have a funny board behind Sal in the set here. It was all the games we played in 2023.
Mm-hmm.
It was full. We had a game a week, it seemed, on there. There was
And
probably
we were
40
playing-
games out of 52.
And we were playing religiously every week,
Every
Monday,
Tuesday we were playing.
Every week we were playing. Yeah.
Then 2024 hits, and we didn't play a single game that entire year.
All right. Well, I would like to apologize for that.
Well,
I still believe that's probably because I got so busy.
Yeah,
With the
100%.
new store.
Yeah, we
that
did mention
really-
because like how many you play a lot of 1v1 games? Like,
Yeah,
we're like,
yeah.
we play those games we
Yeah.
don't play because we usually
I
play
got
for
so
group games.
busy with the store. So
Anyhow, but to backtrack a little bit, so then unfortunately the world shuts down with COVID.
That's
We all
it.
stay in touch, but we're not really gaming too much. We got some tabletops, tabletop simulator.
X-Wing TTS kept us alive. Like, I mean,
nothing
kept
better
me-
than flipping a table in TTS, baby.
So we played a little bit of that, which was good. But that's when this knucklehead decided, you know what? It's the middle of a pandemic. All these businesses are closing. Why don't I just open one in the middle of South Amboy in this really, really small
I was bored.
room that we're in?
I was bored. Wow, that's right. You know what? Every time we say that, I forget this. We're in
the
For those
space.
that don't know, where we filmed the podcast currently is the location of the first Red Seal Gaming store that ever opened in September of 2020.
Yeah. September 2020.
But mind you, we always like part of those big long bullshit sessions in Bullshit Castle. They were talking about, hey, if we had a store, if you opened a store, like what were the mistakes and the problems and the things we didn't like? We visited how many gaming stores?
How many lists did we make?
And I remember
a
just
lot.
being like, wow, I hate seeing this. I hate seeing sheetrock dust on the top of something. You know, and like it was
The
like
tape on the rug.
there's just
Yeah,
I don't want- shitty-looking bathroom.
holes in the rug.
Part of my
Let's not
French,
say
but
where-
nasty bathrooms. Like
Yeah.
I that's why, I make such an effort to keep the bathrooms clean
I
at
won't.
the Seal because it's like it's a big deal to me.
things you
It's
see.
such a nasty
I'm,
thing.
I'm not going to call out any stores that are currently open, but I
Mhm.
will call out stores that are closed. But I mean, like we've gone to some, like the game room store was great, but the carpet was ripped.
Yeah.
The carpet was from the 70s
Duct
and it
tape.
was 2000.
I tripped over the duct tape a couple.
The bathroom was not meant for customers,
Customers.
to use. It
At
was
all.
meant for employees, and it looked that way. And it was hard to run
It
events.
wasn't even good for employees, though. Let's be
No, it
honest.
was- it was
That
kinda
was
bad.
hideous.
Think about what is one of the things that everybody loves about Red Seal. I think I hear it all the time. It's like it's open until midnight.
Mm.
And that was something that came
We
from.
discussed
I
that.
don't want to talk to you. I don't want to
Yeah.
talk for you, but I think
Yeah.
it came from the idea that we'd be at the game room. You guys would get there after work, be 6, 7 o'clock at night.
On the
Oh,
clock.
you got an hour and a half before you got to start packing up your stuff
And our
because
kids
the
were
mall
young.
closes.
And our kids were young, so we couldn't really. It was like you can't just come home and like
Mhm.
help the wife, whatever, blah blah blah, eat dinner, and then try to sneak out for an hour.
worrying about the mall closing.
Yeah.
The issue.
So what if I wanted to stay home until 8 because I had to put the kid down to bed, or I had to make sure I had dinner with the family, and then I wanted to go do something?
Yeah.
That's one of the things. That's one of the things that I think collectively we kind of ruminated in the Bullshit Castle about. Like, well, if this was ever going to happen, maybe that would be a good idea. Or
Because we also thought was like, how much time would you need to play something comfortably? And for me, it was 4 hours.
Mhm.
It was the hour of get there and do the say hi to everybody thing. Hey, how you doing? How was your week? Blah blah blah. The set up the game that you were going to play. There's another hour. Play the game. There's another hour. And then
break down the game.
break down the game, and there's another hour.
and then the slow trickle to the door
Well, that's
because
where the
every 6 feet ends up being another conversation.
That's
3
where the
hours.
that's where the fifth hour comes in because it takes you. Everybody knows it takes at least three segments of conversation to leave Red Seal. It's the all right, guys, I'm leaving. Have a good night. Thanks for coming. And then you get to the door, and you're just either just inside the door or just outside the door. The second conversation takes place for whatever reason it happens, and then it's the third conversation where you have your hand on the door of your car or the trunk of your car.
We used
or
to
the
do that in my
bag going to the car.
backyard. We couldn't. We'd
Yeah.
stand up, have a conversation, walk to the end of my patio, have a conversation. You know, and it was always like stages. Yeah, just how it
So
goes.
regular Red Sealers, they're affected by that too,
Mhm.
and that just shows you that it's not necessarily a Red Seal thing; it's a gamer thing.
It's a gamer.
It's because it's a gamer thing that is happy. It's a gamer that's happy with his environment, right? It's a gamer that does really just because if you wanted to get the
You
F
almost
out,
don't want. You almost
if
don't
you
want to leave.
wanted a GTFO, you would have gone hours ago.
I think
Right,
it's
so-
you don't want to leave. Like you just
Yeah.
like, oh, I got a new idea. You want to hear it? Let's
Yeah,
go.
and you want to talk now. You don't want to wait till next Tuesday.
Yeah, I joke with my wife all the time about it. Like, oh, I'm just running to the store. I got to pick something up really quick. It's like, okay, I'll see you in 4 hours.
Yeah.
yeah.
Like she knows that if I go in if I walk in the store, I'm going to start a conversation with one of you guys, one of the employees, somebody else that's there. That I might not even open a game or play a game. But the fact that I've walked in the door, it's now like it's almost like going to Cheers. It's like, hey Norm, like,
It's
and
life.
everybody kind of like. It's a friendly atmosphere enough that everybody feels comfortable to talk.
It's-
Like, oh, I haven't seen you in a while. What are you doing in this game? Or hey Sprat, what are you doing with your Django deck? Like those kinds of conversations just come out of nowhere, and they're
I hate to use the word, but it's the community.
yeah.
Right? I know some people don't like the word, but that's exactly what it is. It's a place where like-minded individuals have no shame in talking about the stuff that they like, because we're all big freaking nerds and we like playing these games, and
And it
there's nothing
happens
wrong
every-
with
I mean,
and
there's-
there's nothing freaking wrong with
There's
that.
water
right?
cooler chat. People
Yeah.
work, just get around the
Congre-
water cooler,
congregate.
bleh, and but that happens everywhere. The sports guys just mulling over the draft. It's just like, but they don't want to. There's that idea of not wanting to leave. It's
You don't
like,
want to leave because you're having fun.
it's having fun. In the
And
end, having fun.
I try to tell my employees the fact that they don't, because sometimes we just want to go home. It's 1:30, 2 o'clock in the morning, but I'm like, it's a good thing that they don't want to leave. I mean, they do. Of course, they eventually spend money, whatever. But that's honestly, it's a side effect of the atmosphere that we have now, and people are buying into it. So, and that's I think what we all wanted, the three of us wanted in the end, was via chatting, via learning how to play games, and how you want. And this is where, we're at the bottom
and
of
it's
the
not,
hill.
and we're not done yet. It's still
No.
a work in progress.
It's still a work in
changing.
progress. Yeah.
evolving. It is an
And it
evolution
evolves
process.
with every new game that comes out and everything that goes on. So I guess to wrap up my little portion of this, the TLDR portion of this is I started as a kid. My mom instilled me in board games. I fell in love with Magic before middle school. Fell out into video games because of just the circumstances, and then rejoined the community when I was fresh out of college. And had a job and had some disposable income that I could throw away at pieces of shiny
and
cardboard.
then we messed the rest of your life up.
And then you showed up.
Welcome.
There's no one
to
like
chaos.
you.
But I guess that's it. That's where I come from.
All right, so real quick then, I want to get so people know, like maybe your favorite games in a couple categories.
Okay.
Let's start with board game. Sprack off a couple, and then maybe give me your favorite.
Okay, so when anybody outside of gaming asks me what my favorite board game is, it's Waterdeep. But I have a feeling that we're going to talk about Waterdeep for you guys as well. So I'm going to not do that one.
Okay.
I think another one that fits that list would be Horrified, which another one I think we're going to talk about. So I'm going to put on here Ticket to Ride.
He's gonna
Not because it's the
Whoa.
deepest game.
Well, sorry, I'm old.
Whoa.
Yeah,
Okay, sorry.
I'm older, and I don't sing well.
Yeah.
I do ASMR well, though. I hear. That's some of you out there. Yeah.
So good.
At Tucson? At
Yeah,
Tucson?
yeah. it is. I'm nosedive.
Lock
So
in, chat. Lock in.
Lock in.
I'm gonna put Ticket to Ride on here because it is the most accessible game for me to play with literally anybody. I could take it to my parents' house, who graduated at Checkers, and play Ticket to Ride because it's literally rummy with a board.
Yeah.
Rummy with a board and a purpose.
Absolutely.
I can play. It was one of the first games I taught my wife how to play, which then led us to Waterdeep, which now we play cooperative games all the time. It's a really, really great entry point game, and I think it's high on my list only because of that. Not because it's the best game in the world, not because it's going to challenge you mentally or physically, but it will get people to the table that normally wouldn't, and you never know how they are going to progress in their board gaming adventure by playing that game.
I get you. It's the you're no longer playing Monopoly. You're no longer playing Life. You're actually playing this is a board game.
Yeah, you're playing a strategy game.
This is a board game that has strategy to it, and you have to put a little work in.
What a cool theme.
Yeah,
With
and
cool theme
I
and-
played a lot of cards with my parents in the backyard, like rummy and gin and stuff like that. And it's basically rummy with a purpose.
Yes.
And you're getting points, but it's not just a random 52 card bicycle deck. It is cards and trains, and you get to build this. And by the time you get done, the board state looks awesome with all the little plastic trains out there. Especially if you have one of the fancy editions or the extra special train sets, it looks really cool on the board. It's picturesque and very replayable, very easy to get to the board with literally anybody in any age group.
That's great. So, as a fan of board games, that's why you like it so much. 'Cause
Yeah,
it
I
helps
mean,
people
it-
on board into the environment that you like.
It is not the best. It is not my favorite theme. It is not my favorite board game, but it is a really, really good introduction to that space. Is that board game?
All right, let's mention miniature games.
Minis games is tough for me because I came to it late. I built Warhammer minis when I was in high school, but I didn't play them until I got to with you guys. And just in having this conversation, I realized that War Machine was the one that I've absolutely played the most.
Okay.
It's not the best game anymore. They've gone through. I played when it was Mark II. They've gone. I think it's up to like Mark 5 or 6 now.
Many iterations.
It's the guys who do Atomic Mass. Will Schick. He was the guy who really made War Machine click in. I guess that was probably like the 2008s, 2010s era. That was when I think the rules were the tightest, and I think the world was coolest. Lore, though, you can't beat Warhammer.
Yeah.
Either Age of Sigmar,
Yeah,
Old
40K.
World, or 40K. I think it's the best.
It's what they do the best, if you ask me. I mean, I mean, don't get me wrong. We all know they make the best plastic miniatures on the planet, but the lore behind the plastic, I think, is what makes you even more. Makes the plastic more endearing.
Yeah, 100%.
And there's a whole history with War Machine, why the spike in popularity went. There was a period there. I don't remember why, if it was the end of the old, the Warhammer Fantasy battles. There was that hole in GW, and War Machine was able to grasp and take hold and really, prosper in that time. I remember that going into the game room.
You guys had some more.
Yeah,
I remember
hey,
selling
why
some
War
of you War Machine models.
And that's a segue into maybe getting Big John on the show. He loved the Troll Blood so much. I believe the gentleman.
He's
I think he's got a tattoo.
Yep.
So that when somebody puts ink on their body about a board game or a mini game, there's probably some kind of attachment there to it.
Yeah.
Interesting.
He did play a lot, so we got to get Johnny in here for that.
Yes.
All right, so that's an
Card
interesting
game?
take
You
on
gonna do
miniature
card?
game. Yeah, CCG.
Card games a weird one too. I like Magic was the first one I bought into a lot, so I got to give it the credit. It's the
Your
oldest
first girlfriend.
Exactly. I mean, you always remember your first, so let's put it out there. I really love Star Wars Destiny. We've talked about it multiple times. It is the predecessor to Star Wars Unlimited.
Yes.
I love that card game, so we're gonna put Destiny on there. I'm gonna give Flesh and Blood a nod.
That's
so-
your favorite right now. You would say?
I wouldn't say I'm not gonna give myself a favorite for this one. I think Swoo's my favorite. Honestly, let's be honest.
Okay.
But Flesh and Blood was the first kind of community that I want to say that I kind of fostered here.
Okay.
Now, don't get me wrong. FaZe has taken Flesh and Blood to a new level, and now that he's kind of taken
that
it
boy
over.
is in deep.
Yeah,
He
he
is Flesh and Blood.
but I remember doing the first armories in this store on Sundays.
Yeah.
When Monarch was thing. Monarch was the thing.
remember coming in with a busted up ankle, bringing in Arcane Rising,
Yeah,
and you guys came running out to help me.
absolutely.
Not because I had a busted leg, because you went
Because
Arcane
Arcane
Rising.
Rising. But that's a game that survived COVID. So
Yeah.
Welcome to Wraith came out pre-COVID, and Arcane Rising, their second set, came out the week before the world shut down.
Interesting.
So and they were able to weather that storm, and now they've had their ebbs and flows, but that game has survived. And I'm going to put this one on here only because it's baseball season. MLB Showdown.
Oh, let's go!
I loved MLB Showdown.
Freaking go, bro!
I really wish that-
I'm so glad you said that.
I really wish they'd bring that back, but they're
would
never
too.
going to. It's a defunct
Don't
game.
say never. Don't say never. If we get it out there, we can manifest. Right? How much would you pay for a Shohei Ohtani now if it was an MLB
That's
Showdown?
true.
Well, that's-
How much would
you
you
know.
pay for an Aaron Judge now if it was an MLB Showdown? Right? If we could get those, if we can get the chocolate into the peanut butter, and what's right next door to us, to my buddy to open up a sports
That's
store.
true.
Yeah. That
Right?
could be.
We can mix and match. I already got some of them coming over buying Pokemon. We're going over there buying sports cards. Like, we can
To
make
be honest,
this happen.
our powers
all
combined.
those sports games could use a gaming system. to
They're
make
even
them
making
a
anime
functional-
cards in baseball.
for
So-
the new Japanese.
So it's happening.
You know what? I really dropped the ball in minis games. I got to say Blood Bowl. I don't know what I'm thinking. Blood Bowl is absolutely
You
my
know what?
favorite minis
That-
game ever.
I would-
You said other sports. I said, oh yeah, a football game would be great. It's like I'm the
that's how
biggest moron in the world because Blood Bowl is 100% ingrained in my soul. But
That tells me when's the last time you played.
it's
now?
been a while. It's
That's
been a
why
couple.
it's out
It's
of
been a
you.
bit.
It's been it. So guess
Yeah,
what?
you know what?
Heads up, guys. Artie, he's coming. Artie, he's gonna be back with a vengeance.
I would say you're the person I know amongst us that plays. We've tried to play Blood Bowl. We've tried to play Blitz Bowl, being like minor leaguers, and like I just think it comes down to you love Blood Bowl. So whenever it's a Blood Bowl or something, I'm like, Chris, what do you think about that? So
you know what? You know what? I'm starting to put some of it together. Chess player loves Blood Bowl.
Yeah,
Yeah, no,
you can-
squares
you-
and diagonals. Tell me all
Right?
about it.
You can see
it's
the
a lot-
correlation.
and it's a lot of like just like in chess, pre-thinking of
Yeah.
like strategizing.
The cage.
Of like,
I mean, you do it with chess. You do everything to protect the
It
king.
is.
It's like
You know
it's
what?
the cage.
that you look at it like that. It's very much so.
Right.
So yeah, I dropped the ball. Mini game definitely Blood Bowl. Let's
Okay.
Go back.
All right.
redact whatever else I
All
said.
right, I wrote that down.
Flare gun.
Redacted.
Flare.
All right. Flesh and Blood card game. The last
RPG.
thing was RPG. Yeah.
RPG.
All right. I love D&D, so I loved the idea of RPGs, but I never played one until I got the base. I got the call to the basement. The bat phone rang, and I slid down the pole, and I ended up in the basement.
Dungeon Master called you.
Correct.
Gondor calls
and
for
then
you.
and then it was never the same. So I'm not gonna say D&D because it should be everybody's favorite. I'm gonna do a shout out to a company called Free League Publishing.
Okay.
They do a game called Tales from the Loop.
I've never even heard of this.
So Tales from the Loop, and if you have Netflix, there's another show on Netflix called Electric State. Those are actually RPG books. So Tales from the Loop was on Amazon Prime, and Electric State is on Netflix. But they were first RPG books made by a relatively small Swedish company called Free League Publishing.
Wow.
And it's crazy the way that the lore is. And what it was it's a Swedish artist did these gigantic portraits of like 80s children. But it's like all the sci-fi stuff is real. So like they're basically these like big, gigantic steam vent, almost like a nuclear reactor. But it's not a nuclear reactor. It's basically like a CERN super collider, and it opened up a portal.
Oh my god.
And certain things can come through, like dinosaurs come from different ages, and some like these robots come from another one. And robots are real, and they're autonomous, and they can walk around. It's a really, really crazy. I'm not doing it justice to sell, but it's a really cool sci-fi setting, but it's meant to be played as if you're a kid in the 80s, and it's kind of like the Goonies.
It's like that Stranger Things Goonies kind of like feel. I remember seeing the artwork.
And they made a TV show with us?
Yeah, so there's a 1-season TV show on Amazon Prime that was called Tales from the Loop that was in that world.
Oh, excellent.
But it's kind of like dilapidated.
It's going into the queue.
Yeah. And then the other one from that company is Vaesen. They're it's like Celtic horror stories.
I mean, that's still out, isn't it?
Oh, both of these are. But Tales from the Loop, Electric State is brand new, and Vaesen is still out. They still make them.
Big John was playing Vaesen for a little bit.
Well, the artist is top notch. That's what drew me in, because when it comes down to it, if you're not going to play an RPG book, I want to read it and I want to be enamored by the art.
Lore is everything.
So it's a cool setting, it's cool art, it's a cool book. So I'm going to put those up there because I've read them cover to cover, even though I've never rolled a single die in any one of those games.
Interesting.
Okay, so so you were born in the 80s. All right, so a child of the 80s going to a child of the 70s now.
Oh.
All right. You ready, Sal?
Yeah.
Let's hear this walk through life of how Salvatore
we're gonna
became a gamer.
We're gonna have a lot of overlap because
well, obviously we know each other, and it's similarities.
14 years old is kind of like my stamp of where a lot of stuff is going to overlap. But like me being the youngest I can remember playing anything would be like, say, my grandparents in Brooklyn, Rummy. We used to sit down and just play Rummy and play that for like hours and hours.
Pinochle. I love
Pinochle. So I remember playing that.
Did they crack your? Did you play when they cracked your knuckles playing Pinochle?
I don't remember that.
No.
They used to do that.
I was once. It didn't matter.
Yeah, if anything, my grandmother like whipped out like a buffet style meal at that point. Like you hungry? Bam, food.
Yeah.
And then I remember playing. I think I remember playing like one of the OG Trivial Pursuits. Like I think my family still has that edition.
The original.
And my kids, when they read questions, they're like, "What?"
Talk about history class.
No clue, because it's like all like
it was
like
pop
early
culture.
80s.
Gerald Ford, Ronald Reagan. I think it was like Genus 4. I think I remember playing that same exact board game.
Yeah. So I remember doing that youth. And I want to say that when I was probably though like around like 5th, 6th grade, I went to Catholic school. So like I remember recess in the yard. Somebody brought the Red Box D&D.
Oh my God!
box, and this dude's like, we're gonna roll up characters and now mind you, the truncated time you have at Catholic school to like actually do anything we had a half hour. So I don't know what in my brain that was like 7 hours being when I was that
relaxing
age.
it is that half hour. That's how important that half hour is to you.
You don't realize. So then I never forget. So rewinding, I was always big into comic books. So that was my first going to an Optimo smoke store in New York, in Brooklyn. My grandfather used to walk up. We'd get Italian bread. He'd get food, and then there was a old metal circular rack, and it was always
I could hear the squeak.
Yeah, complete little plastic GI Joe
Dust
soldiers
all over the bottom.
You get the plastic bag of GI Joe, Army soldiers, green and tan. That was like the first idea of watching old World War II movies with my grandfather, setting those up in the yard, burying them in the yard. But then it was Conan the Barbarian was like that comic book that always, in Red Sonja, but Conan Moore would draw me off the rack, pull that. So that is probably my first real like fantasy trope of like, I want to look like Conan. I want a sword. I want to be big muscles. I want to wear whatever that lion's mane I don't want underwear. I want that piece of fur that's between his legs.
loincloth?
The loincloth,
They don't
yeah.
sell loincloths at Kmart back then.
Yeah.
So, and then it was.
So D&D is like the first.
So that was the
Kinda
first
game, right?
outside of because once again, Monopoly, the regular board games they had at Toys R Us and
Which I think
and
we all did,
KB, remember that toy
KB
store?
Toys?
KB
Wow.
Toys.
KB Toys,
Wow,
and,
shout out to
and,
KB
and
Toys.
Kmart. I remember those games being there, and I was also rewinding again. I was also an only child, so so a lot of stuff was toys, GI Joe, Star Wars, those OG toys, setting them up in warlike states. My mom used to drive her crazy. My entire living room I would set up with GI Joe, with a giant assault and Cobra Force, with a GI Joe base, and I would leave them there for like a week. And my mom would be like, "When are we getting rid of this?" I'm like, "No."
Did you have the aircraft carrier?
No, I never had the aircraft. I know
If
your
you left
brother.
that there for a week,
that
that would be a problem.
I had the main base. I had the GI Joe base with the prison, and
okay.
everybody went into prison. Everybody broke out of the prison. It was constant struggle. But I used to have it all set up, and that was like that vignette combat scene that like led to my brain obviously coming down the road with So once again, going forward, D&D in the yard there. I remember Conan was my guy, so my first character was Conan. Like I drew up a stupid picture of Conan, copied from issue whatever, like 75 of the Conan Marvel series, and I copied the cover and like, this is my guy. I think there was like 12 of us, like
Oh my God.
I think I rolled the die once, and I probably rolled horrible. So then it was like,
now you know why I don't like to play DM more than 6 people.
oh my God, yeah. So it was a car bomb's worth of mess of like us trying to get, but that was the first delving in the book, getting in the red, the red box, looking at like, oh, that's an elf. This is a dwarf. This is a cleric. Like that's how, and it was all Elmore art. So like seeing that artwork messing me up. So that was my first delving into that, and that kind of peter-pattered. Like certain groups, we did certain things, but it was always very much never a full game. It was always that like looking into the book, playing a little bit. One of my other buddies, we somehow got the Rogue Trader book, the OG Rogue Trader book. We never played any of the 40K rules in there because it was like Aramaic.
Rogue
it was
Trader,
like calculus
with the cone
with all the iron fists on the
Yeah.
cover. OG. I still have that OG book. So we used to model somehow. I don't remember where we got miniatures from because I really can't remember. You know what? It was probably the game room all the way back in the early 80s because Woodbridge Mall, you'd go there.
Maybe Jim's on Staten Island?
You know
buy
what?
'em from
Jim's
Jim
might have
yet?
had some early, remember the GW was very big. They had the very thin, large, box miniatures, and it was like Space Marine. It was elves, dwarves, and they were like big. I want to say like almost like paper-sized boxes, thin, and you'd have like a few sprues. I remember me and my buddy would just build them all and set them up, and then we'd supplement model cars and like vintage model planes, and we would like burn them up and put them into battlefields and leave them in his garage. And so like we were thinking about war games, we just didn't know really how to go about playing them. So fast forward to high school. I go to high school. I meet my friend Bez and Bito.
Dr. DeBenz
Dr. DeBenz
on
in the Dark
Discord,
One.
if you're not familiar, and the Dark One.
Yes.
Who comes in and play Commander a lot.
Brian and Mike for their real names. And me and them high school was like the beginning of a whirlwind craziness of just, oh, dude, you like this? Oh, dude, you like this? Oh, dude, I love this. Oh, you watch this? Oh, you collect that? So they were my first nerd friends that I was able to meet up with. There was no like ever like, oh, you like that kind of stuff. It was always very accepting. So like, all right, we're in together. Oh, you watch Conan religiously? Like I've burnt out how many VHS tapes of the original Conan with Arnold Schwarzenegger? So Bito's like, hey, you live right up the block from me. Why don't you come on down to my house? My friend's older brother runs D&D.
There it is.
Why don't you come and play?
brother.
My friend's really older brother.
Yeah. He's got this crazy Guido coif with a come down.
I'm gonna,
and
you
check
know
it
what?
out.
Now that you said that, I'm gonna have to put a picture.
Oh, my
I'm
God.
gonna have to give John a picture so let people see what it looked like with hair.
The 80s were a fantastic time, just for like
especially in
many
Staten
reasons.
Island, bro.
For many reasons. So I remember walking down my block, and we went down and hung out. And I hadn't met Dan yet. I met Dan's brother Michael, and we played a game of tag football in the street, and I caught this bomb. I never forget it. And I was like, it was the last play. The street lights were about to come on, and I caught this like just the tips of my fingers over my head for a touchdown. They were like, "Yeah, you're coming back tomorrow, right?" I'm like, "Yeah."
The caught that saved your life.
The caught that pretty much garnered me acceptance into that beginning of the
the
group.
other neighborhood group, because technically that was almost like another neighborhood the way Staten Island was. It was only like a 2-block radius.
Yes, yeah. And
each 2-block radius had its little group.
I barely knew how to ride a bike. I didn't learn how to ride a bike till I was a lot older. So like, don't make fun of me. He doesn't know how to ride a bike too well. And I sucked. I'd crash. You know. So then it was coming down, and then it was like, oh wow, you guys are playing Dungeons and Dragons, and then oh wow, you guys are playing like this miniature game. Oh, I know this miniature game, but you're playing like the elves and dwarves. Like, oh, this is the fantasy side. So I think it was third edition.
Third edition.
So that was that first
Big orange book.
Yeah, so it was Dan's like, hey, we're in a campaign right now, but you know what? Here's a level 4 and 4. Make whatever you want. I had a ranger illusionist. I still have the sheet home. He was a complete crackhead. I mean, there was no grounding, and we played, and I think we all died in against the Giants. Was like
oh my
hey
goodness.
Beto, don't go in there. We're not ready for the final room. No, we are. Let's go.
That was in my kitchen.
Dead.
Now, and I remember
Dead.
that. It was
and
TPK.
I have that guy. So but to me that was the first sitting down, learning Dungeons and Dragons. Dan was a great DM, and it was like, wow, this guy runs the show, and he was older than us, so it made it
Big brother.
yes sir, yes
yeah,
sir.
Yeah, there was a
whatever.
big brother respect I had instantly with them. Yeah.
So then it was like, hey, we're playing Warhammer, and then that was that kind of snowballing of setting up Warhammer games on a table similar like this. We'd put a sheet over it. And then we'd come back tomorrow, pull the sheet back. Who was cheating? Who's peeking in the window? Who moved the miniatures up, 3 feet?
Beto.
So
Ice cream man cheat.
yeah, and that was really learning.
Ice cream would come and he
Ice
would
cream man
move stuff on
came.
the table.
We all run outside, get some ice cream. He snuck back in.
Mikey
he
caught him.
he knew it wasn't gonna he had this unit that wasn't gonna make a charge, and he just gave it a little bit of a shove.
Probably would
And
answers.
Mikey caught him he's looking through the window, and he came running in, and he called him out. And Beto was like, "Oh, I'm sorry, man. I'm sorry. I really
That's
wanted it."
amazing.
Yeah.
That's an amazing middle school, high school
yeah,
style.
it was
That's-
so bad.
It was so bad. Look, we're still ridiculing him today.
And
He just got a
I
chuckle
remember
about it.
coming down and not having a full function army, and they're like, "Oh, dude, we got a whole dark elf army sitting in this tackle box. It's yours."
Yeah, yeah.
And I still got all those metal dark elves home, and I remember trying to make the
Corsairs
units
and all that shit,
They
yeah.
were janky. Most of
Janky.
them were dark elves from D&D, which was funny because they all looked like drow with hand crossbows. But that was the dark elves, and I remember putting them on the field and getting waxed, and just Beto had war dancers would just come across the table, melt you with a tree man.
What's his name?
Johnny, the tree man, wasn't it?
Johnny we named the tree man Johnny, but there was a war dancer. He had a name.
Oh, Scarlack.
Scarlock.
He had his own box.
Yeah.
Anyway, so that was my
And
first.
Glam.
And God,
Glam.
they were nice. War dancers were this little troop of half naked elves would mess your whole army up. But that's a whole different story.
Yeah.
But so that was the beginning of that, and now it's just all right. Now it's years and years of playing Warhammer Fantasy and playing Dungeons and Dragons, and then really.
But
This
I mean,
symbol,
for 15 years, we played nothing but D&D
and Warhammer Fantasy. It was literally cook
That's
up.
all we did.
Warhammer Fantasy. All right, we're not playing, and then the weekend Dungeons and Dragons. And then it was and then we're all younger, no school.
What
so
what age was this?
I was 14 because I remember I was.
And that puts me close to 20.
So you were 14 to 30, that's the age, that's the timing we're talking about.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Maybe even a little older.
Maybe yeah. I roughly
We had a shirt that said MRS 25 years of war. On
that
it.
was our first group. Was the MRS was the Miniature Restoration Society. Was supposed to be the old guy in the smoke jacket. Masterpiece Theater, and the music would come on. Welcome to the and I used to go to work in my shop, and we used to have an industrial shop, and I used to get miniatures, put them in a pot, and put this Zep paint stripper, and I used to stay with a wire brush, and I would rip these paints off all these bad miniatures, and we're restoring these old miniatures. and
Basically,
bringing
we
them
had become better painters, and we were, you ever see the Two Thin Goats YouTube thing that everybody jokes
nightmare.
about with the busted eyes and the crooked stuff? We always make fun of. That's what our minis looked like.
Yeah, they were horrible, and it was mostly
Correcting the crimes of your
Yes,
youth.
we got better, and we just cleaned it up.
And then they were all testers, because we painted everything in
the
testers
oil-based,
back
yeah.
then.
Oil-based, yeah.
So the first shirts when we used to go to Games Day for Warhammer was their conventions. We used to have our MRS shirts. So we had the
Black with the
1996
three blocks with the letters.
It was 96. It had established 1996, whatever. Bito drew pictures of them. We made shirts.
And then
of
on the
them.
back it said 25 years of war.
So and then in reality, our longest running D&D group was the formation of the idea of the Red Seal, because my only claim to fame was naming our group, because we always had a group of like, this is going to be this, we're going on this great campaign story that Dan role played. This group kept on tighter. And now like Dan was kind of hinting at, this story is going to take us on a big arc. So I'm like, we need a Fellowship of the Ring name. Let's become the company of the Red Seal. And the idea was everybody would have a metal ring that had their signet. And whenever you stamped it into red wax, you knew that was coming from a SEAL member. And that just became our Company of the Red Seal campaign arc. Probably the best, the greatest D&D arc character I've ever had of my 40 plus,
You're going to make
years.
me cry.
So yeah,
Don't make me cry.
which we never got to finish the story. And then when you came into the group, we resurrected. We had the ancestral characters of the Red Seal.
That was my way of bringing it back. I said,
now-
all right, fine. It's in the blood. then.
Yeah.
Put it in the blood.
Yeah. But yeah, like that leading up to meeting you, Chris, was playing Warhammer, playing Dungeons and Dragons, and then the end times was kind of also the end time of our gaming, because not all of our group wanted to follow into other games. So not everybody wanted to like search for a new game. Like I'm like, even when Age of Sigmar 1 came out, like I'm not playing that. Like like it was like there was a lot of like, we're not playing anything anymore. And like so then,
I was heartbroken.
yeah, and
Truly heartbroken.
you
They killed 3 of my armies. All 3 armies I played no longer existed.
Yeah,
That was
Bretonians,
really
Tomb Kings,
And
and
the dwarves.
well, for Age of Sigmar,
For Age of Sigmar,
yeah,
yeah.
they were technically defunct. I mean, technically, I had no armies either, because demons weren't a thing at the very beginning, and I was like, it was one
Just
fancy.
corn. Yeah.
But look at these guys. These guys are spiky chaos guys. Like it was easy for me to find another chaos thing in AOS. But I remember that being like, all right, gaming's over. And it's almost, I was making the joke with Dan. I'm like, it was almost like older vampires need to make a vampire of their time to make that connection. And it was like, we made you a vampire.
Yeah,
And it's
I
like,
was like,
wow.
I was Lestat,
Yeah.
right?
I was like Armand.
You were Armand, yeah.
Hey, Christopher.
Yeah.
We need your
We needed
youth.
we needed like, as like a flesh perspective. 'Cause
Yeah.
We're running out of things to do with our life. We're like bored.
Not knowing, this is how angry I am now, that like not knowing that like Ninth Age was a Warhammer Fantasy group that kept the game going and kept Warhammer Fantasy going past the end times. And they did the rank and, the what is it called? Rank and flank,
Rank and flank, yeah.
system. They kept it going for years. And like, why didn't we play that? We had all our miniatures, but like that weird, I'm so glad that part
They
of my
gave up on us.
yeah, and I'm glad that part of my brain's gone. Like that part of my brain where like I will like X-Wing. X-Wing is now not supported game anymore. That does not mean nothing to
Shit,
me.
yeah,
I
I'm
mean,
still gonna play.
it's
right,
still
yeah.
the game. It's so easy to get to the table. So like, why would I stop playing it just because it's not supported? I don't understand that anymore. But it took a decade, and then it took a decade of playing games with you to be like, oh, that's like, oh yes, like So anyway, so our overlap happens there. Then we reach that point where it's like, oh, we're playing all these games together.
We've also, if anything, it's become a detriment the other way.
Got
'Cause
too
we're
many
always,
games.
We're always looking. Now we got too many games.
Yeah, I
and
mean,
we're
which
always
is a-
looking at the new one.
Which is a better
Like, what's the
problem.
new
to
one? What's the? It's
Which-
definitely a better problem.
It's a better problem to have. I'll
Definitely
take
a
that
better
problem as opposed to like once again
100%.
Star Wars fans. People complain about Star Wars all the time, but you forget the 17 years there was nothing. You know what I mean? And like that was like I look back on that. I'm like, I'll take subpar. I'll take give me the worst cold cuts. I'll still make a sandwich. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
Like and still eat it and be like, I'm kind of
How
full.
much time there was between Jedi and Attack of the Clones?
17. There's like 17 years.
What was 82 to 97?
Nothing.
So 97 was the re-releases,
Yeah.
the remastered ones, and then
Remasters.
99 was Phantom Menace.
Yeah.
Yeah,
See,
and that's and in the,
years.
forget about like the end of Revenge of the Sith to the Force Awakens. That's another ocean
That was
of time.
gigantic gap.
So once again, it's that idea of, so for me, I'm happy where we are now, and segue to you, which we're gonna go back. We're gonna go back even farther.
Go back in the Wayback Machine.
I should. You know what? This is where I should have brought out like the old tome and dropped it off. And
Yeah.
here's my.
The
What about
dust.
what about
Well,
the,
let's
what
get-
about the
well,
answer
yeah,
to
we do
questions?
my
Let's
games.
get your
Let's do my
best
games.
hits.
All right.
Your best hits board game first.
board games? So there's once again we have overlap because Waterdeep is probably my favorite game in the sense that it's D&D. So it was the first crossover. Like we only play D&D. Wait, it's D&D board game. Oh, we've role played and adventured in Waterdeep, oh, I know all these lords in Waterdeep. I know all the places they're talking about. So it was for me that board game transitioning to
Oh, and by the way, it's a really good board game. Like this is crazy.
Yeah, that was just
solid.
icing on the cake.
Yeah, and it was cooperative. It wasn't cooperative. It was the game where I didn't have to worry about you. Whereas like Monopoly, I'm constantly, worrying about you're gonna land my spot. You didn't land my spot.
Or eat a pizza, have a drink.
Yeah.
Me and you could be talking. Chris goes, and we just kind of eyeball him.
Yeah,
and,
and
see what's
very
going on.
few
Oh,
ways.
wow, oh, man, I can't believe you took that spot. I needed that spot. Blah,
Here's
blah,
the
blah.
mandatory quest.
Yeah.
Is the only thing I could really do
Yeah.
to like slow you down. And it was like, but it was because it was the D&D IP with a great board game. I will also nod to Horrified. I love Horrified. Chris introduced us to Horrified. It's a co-op game where it's the OG monsters from the Universal Monsters, and they've come up with subsequent expansions.
Four different
I
versions.
get
now.
stressed playing that game.
Well, I love that we've never
I get stressed.
We've
right
never
there in
beaten the mummy.
We've never beaten the mummy. He's a
beaten the
son of
mummy.
a bitch.
And like it's a time sink. It's like, can you get the other ones done so quickly?
that you can then finish the mummy.
I'm wondering
Yes.
if there's a point we're at now where we don't want to beat the mummy.
Like, that's part of our lore. We can't
Right?
beat the mummy.
We
Yeah.
can't beat the mummy, but we don't want to beat the mummy. Maybe.
Red Seal Gaming the movie
I
comes
kinda-
out.
comes
The mummy
out.
kills us.
I kind of want to kill. I want to.
I want to do it, but I'm afraid it's like, does it end then?
Yeah. And then another
You know?
game, once again, ties into D&D was Tyrants of the Underdark, GF9 game. All the houses and the Underdark, the Drow Dark Elf houses in the Underdark, trying to gain dominance over the Underdark cities and areas, and just that whole mechanic. Now that is a non-cooperative game, but because of the feel and how it played,
And then alternate ways to win.
yes,
It's not just one win condition. There's like at least three paths to victory.
yes,
And
you could flop the points.
Yeah,
could
and
flop
like halfway through, you might be going on the same path. I'll switch now and go this route.
Someone had the most cities, and you
Yeah.
got that token. They gave you +3 victory points.
Yeah, so it's like board state, the upgrading of the cards, and then there's what's the other one?
it was a deck
Is it
building
like
game.
army? Is
Well,
like, is it-
it's always about points at the end.
Yeah.
But you can get points by culling your deck. You can get points by upgrading your cards. You can get points from the board.
Certain
The board,
monsters you
yeah.
wanted to go late
Yeah.
game into
Yeah.
the pile, because you could score. But yeah, it was shame on GF9 though, because that game they decided it's still available, but they got rid of all the plastic components and gave just cardboard components. Like my set has all the
and how
plastic.
hard is it just to make some cards? We didn't even really care about card quality. We just,
It didn't continue, so there was
Yeah.
only one expansion that added more cards into the card pool, and it was like different aberrations and undead, like different card decks.
But they couldn't even get the card backs were awful. Like they didn't match. So
No.
when you mix
Well,
them
that's
together, you
what's-
knew what they
that's
were. It
what
was
I remember.
awful.
I
Yeah,
remember
it's-
that.
so
I remember that
great
being
game,
very disappointed.
But it
I
was
remember.
definitely a disappointment.
That was that's just GF9. But before we move on, I just want to. This is why secret layers are not the devil. This is why secret layers are actually good. Because what did you notice about two of those board games? They were both IPs that he previously liked that brought him to another game.
Yes.
And that's why Secret
So,
Lair
like-
is good. That's why Universes Beyond is
Universe
good.
Universe Beyond is probably the one that I wanted to say the most. It was I like this, so I want to have I'm now going to be introduced to something else via the IP.
It's a pathway, and celebrate the pathway because it's
Did you
new
see
people.
what happened when they announced the SpongeBob cards and the website crashed again?
yeah, it's crazy.
Yeah, I mean it's
It happens. All right, so you want to put Waterdeep as the main, or you want to?
no, Waterdeep has to be my pinnacle,
Okay.
just because of it's a game I can play with my wife and I mentioned at my house, and everybody drops.
Everybody
everything to
drops
play
those.
that.
Well, it's
That's
definitely my favorite too. It's just
my wife and my daughter love that game. So minigame. Being a Warhammer, I mean Warhammer's. We've played fantasy, all versions of Fantasy Warhammer through my entire life. It's my favorite games. 40K we dabbled here and there, but I have to say X-Wing for me because of simplicity, ease to the table. We were just talking about. I just answered on some of the podcasters that I've been following after Adepticon, and they were talking about the AMG room. And how the Armada side and the X-Wing side, like there was people there, and one guy says it wasn't busy, and I'm like, I don't know what you're talking about. Those tables were full,
Place is packed.
they might have seen it in between.
Oh, okay.
But I said, well, wait till next year because they're gonna lose those 300 people. Probably they'll be somewhere else. But think of the logistics for all the other games that AMG has. They have to bring all terrain. Those simplicity of Armada, and there's no terrain. Yeah, I got to stack a bunch of mats,
a
but
neoprene mat.
think how many boxes and things you have to bring in terrain. So
Players bring the terrain.
pretty much, I mean, or someone's got to bring it, and it's not just Matt. So that's part of the love of the mechanic of X-Wing and the fact that it's a dogfighting game, and that's the core of the game, and it plays so well. It's just once again ease to table. It fits. It Star Wars dogfighting is 50% of Star Wars to me, and
It is Star Wars.
it is Star Wars. So like that game just nails it in every which way. Yeah, so I have to name that as my mini game. all
Okay,
time.
so CCG.
All right, so CCGs is weird for me because I suck at card games. So I don't gravitate towards them very. We played Magic as a kid. I'll never forget, if we bring up a quick Magic story, some little kid, when Magic first came out in 92, I never forget, there was a kid down the block from Dan, young dude, comes up to the house. He's on Beato's steps to
God.
his house.
I
and
can't believe you remember this.
He's got a shoebox of just, dude, they're all unlimited. It's OG set. And we're like,
lands.
dude, we're just rifling through those. Yeah, I'll take this, kid. I don't know what I was giving him. And I never forget, the card that always messed my head up was the Lich.
Mm-hmm.
And it was one of those weird mechanics where like your health doesn't mean anything, and all your deck is your life. And it was a weird mechanic, but the art always stuck with me. And I never forget, he had one in there, and he didn't want to trade that one card. And I never forget that, of just going to right now, that box is probably could have bought that kid a house with that what was in that box back then. But so I never was good at card games, even when we played those. So, but when Star Wars Destiny came out for me, that's it. Please show that image. I love that
I'll make
card.
sure-
I love the
I'll make sure John
mechanic.
has it, yeah.
It's just show Chris. That's
yeah.
just it's the OG. It's just
Oh
something.
my goodness!
yeah,
Yeah, I remember that card too.
It's so weird, and it was such like a new idea of a card, and it just got me, that card. And I
Well,
love
it was an enchantment. It was like the first really engaging enchantment. A lot of other enchantment like Circle Protection, blah blah blah. This was like it
Weird.
really affected the
and
game,
it was the Lich. I love Liches. So I think every wizard I've ever made always wanted to be a Lich. But anyway, so I suck at card games. So Star Wars Destiny came out. I'm like, wow, all right, Star Wars card game. But it was always for me, the dice probability kept me in the game, because I just didn't know when to discard. I didn't know at what order for things to be used at. I just suck at that. So when it was like, you know what, discard, I'm re-rolling all my dice, and it was like, you might roll, probability says that you can go 0 for 16. I don't know why I use that number, but and
I do.
I can go 6, even if I had the worst deck. And we played at a ton of events at, what was it, PAX we played?
We played at PAX. Yeah.
And I remember, like, I'm playing the meta deck, and I would win a game because he just didn't roll into what he needed for that deck to work. And I'm like, wow, I'm 4 damage, 4 melee, 4 ranged. I'm like, this is awesome. So I always felt like I had a chance with that game, and I kind of liked the idea of the physical dice as a collecting aspect. Storage nightmare, the cards were in a binder, but then I had to store the dice. So yeah, so that's my card game.
Okay, last one is RPG.
RPG, once again, we go to D&D, but it's a very specific point in D&D. It would have to be 3rd edition D&D, but more so for when they had I forgot the name of the book. I think was it the Gods? It was a Gods book that had all the Forgotten Realms gods, and every god was listed in the book, but every god had a specialty priest. So you could make a cleric, but then you could become a specialty priest of Baal or Tempest, and it gave kind of like a subclass feel to the cleric. Obviously, a specialty priest of Tempest being the god of war, you got to use a bastard sword or a two-handed sword, and it gave you different spells, and it made the clergy feel more dynamic for the church. Like, why is the clergy in D&D for this particular god doing what they do? Now it's just kind of like, your kind of spells are dictated around your domain, and like it doesn't feel like I understand why there's a clergy of a particular god. And back then, for some reason, that system really. And then 3rd edition is kind of like the.
Now that you say that, I think I will. I got it. By the way, I think is this it? Is it the Lost Empires?
I want to say it's Corellian fighting Grumsh.
Grumsh on the cover.
On the cover of it,
I'll keep
gods and
looking, I'll find
avatars, or
something like that.
avatars and something.
But I specifically now as your dungeon master, Kelemvor,
Kelmvor.
right?
Yeah,
I
that was
remember
the
you making a
first
specialty priest
after
of Kelemvor,
Time of
which allowed him
Troubles.
to use a bastard sword or a
It was
two-handed sword.
Yeah, chainmail, bastard sword.
Yeah.
You
So
had this
it was a way for a priest to use a sword because
normally it was only
clerics. I'm sorry, I'm saying priest, cleric because we were saying specialty priest,
Yeah.
but they're actually clerics. Clerics could not use swords.
it was only blunt weapons.
It was
at the
only
time.
blunt. Yeah,
But yeah,
they
so
couldn't draw blood.
So 3rd edition, that kind of era, and that was kind of our main company, the Red Seal Group, started in 2nd and then did the conversion to 3rd, and that was kind of like the great, the golden age for my Dungeons and Dragons. But we played a lot of Edge Studios. well, we try to play a lot of Edge Studios. And when we went to Gen Con specifically, we always would sign up for those events. So I've played at least 3 or 4 Gen Con specific Star Wars role-playing Edge system games. And that game was always fun because like the DM was aided by the dice. The dice helped the narrative. So your positive and negative role pools would dictate like, hey, I never forget, I want to jump from this speeder to that speeder. And all right, make a check. And you would roll, and I would roll. I had a successful roll, but there was negative aspects to the roll. So the GM's like, hey, you jump across to the speeder, but you successfully do it, but you land on the throttle and the speeder zips away even faster, and now you leave everybody behind. So there was that narrative, like that might have been a part of the dungeon or GM's story, but the dice helped him morph the scene into, so I really like that system. So yeah, that would be my like secondary role-playing game. So, but yeah.
We'll put D&D and Edge for both of you.
Yeah. Star Wars.
Star Wars
It
in
is Star
general.
Wars. We did just ironically try the new Edge Arkham, and that's a little bit different system. We might actually review that. That box.
But that's
was kinda
actually
fun.
one of our next shows coming
Yeah.
up. We're going to be talking about.
But yeah, so I
playing
mean,
that-
transition to Dusty, as we like to call him in the old Warhammer.
Maybe
Fantasy.
that's why we can't beat the Mummy, because I actually am the Mummy.
Maybe you are the mummy.
Dust.
I
Yeah.
am the Mummy.
Tom
right.
Cruise becomes the mummy.
I'm running.
Uh-oh,
I'm running. I saw the
Spirit
trailer,
hands.
by the way. I'm very excited. So,
Okay.
for those of you who don't know, I'm an avid Tom Cruise fan, the best action hero ever. And I'm a Schwarzenegger fan and a Stallone fan. Tom Cruise has been around.
Rip. Val Kilmer's passing hurt me a lot.
Exactly.
I don't want to. I don't.
Yeah, it don't hurt me. Going at, not to go off on a tangent, but I mean, me with Tom Cruise
Iceman.
goes right where'd your brain go? I'm right to Val Kilmer.
Yep.
Right?
Listen, he was successful at going fast and turning left for an entire 2-hour movie, so I like
There you
Tom
go.
Cruise.
Tom
too.
Cruise has touched everybody at least once. Maybe on a couch, jumping up and down. Who knows?
Days of Thunder is such a good movie.
Such a good movie.
It is. I mean, I'm not even a NASCAR guy, and I
just
love
a good
that
movie.
I love
It's just maybe it's the era. I don't know. Maybe it's because we're old. I don't know.
But yeah, but the rest in peace Val Kilmer. I told Lucas we have to watch. Like we have a list of movies, me and my son, and we just moved up Top Gun
Dude,
and the
watch
new
Top-
Top
you wanna
Gun
have it-
and
You know what your son would
Tombstone.
love? Dude, watch Top Secret.
Oh no, those I see. I want
Remember
to.
Top Secret?
I
It's like
want to watch
comedy?
the comedy ones,
Yeah.
and Real Genius is like the two.
Oh my God, Laszlo.
I really liked The Saint. Did you ever
The
see him in The
Saint's
Saint?
Oh,
excellent.
that's, I
Dude.
can't. It's a flicker stopper. If I'm clicking, I'll stop when the same time.
But the Tombstone, I don't want him to watch
Oh, my
the
goodness.
genius of Doc
All right, you know
Holiday
what?
until he's watched
the
another
funny stuff.
version, or just another version of
show
Val
I,
Kilmer.
hold on, show idea. All right, movies that inspired gaming or
Yes.
like assisted
Oh,
yeah,
movies
absolutely.
and gaming.
I'll tell you
Okay.
exactly who inspired Isliard. 100%.
Yeah, we have a
Movies.
and
And gaming.
to preface that, we have a list of movies that we show people in our group that have never watched, like our youngins. So like, you have to watch these staple movies just to understand how a party works in Dungeons
Especially
and
when
Dragons.
especially when we're teaching D&D.
We won't say that'll be a show, but we
That's
have
another show.
We have a
That'll
whole
be in
list.
that movie and gaming show.
Yeah,
definitely.
because it's gaming. There's a lot of them. But anyway, go
It's
ahead.
a lot. And part of, you know what? I'll start that off with my journey. All right, so Old Man Dan, you ready? Child of the 60s.
Chicka wham wham.
I was born in 1969, the summer of love, ladies and gentlemen. So
Good
yes,
thing you were one though, because
I was one.
you're influenced by the '70s more than the '60s.
absolutely, and probably 70s and 80s, late, because
Yeah.
but you figure your core. I mean, 9 or 10 is when you really start like
Yeah.
remembering
There's some
everything.
5. There's some
I don't
5,
remember
6.
doing anything as a 3-year-old. I really don't. So, but for me, believe it or not, some of you may know me this way. Others know that I'm an avid sports fan. I was a jock, 100% hardcore baseball, football guy in junior high school, little league, all that stuff. The only closest thing to nerddom, I think you could say, would be green and tan, or
The Army soldiers,
soldiers.
World War II. All the bodegas carry
what-
that package of.
what kid from the 70s and the 80s is not like simulating a war game of some kind, right?
Remember, there was
It
green and gray
green and gray, yeah.
because you had the
Well, you got-
had the Wehrmacht.
You also got to remember who you're talking to. So I'm also very
They were all
colorblind. So it was
gray.
gray. It was
He had gray on gray.
It was light gray versus dark gray.
It was always a civil war.
It was always a civil war. So hardcore jock, very little gaming influence. A book was given to me, Lord of the Rings. got me into fantasy immediately. I was like, what is this world? I never knew it existed, whatever. Then, I mean, obviously the books are old. I did not know that at the time reading them. And then within, I think, a year of me reading the book, the Rankin Bass cartoons were out in the 70s. I think the first one was in the 70s.
I remember that also.
I think it was like 79.
Yeah.
I think the first one came out.
That was that rotoscope technology where they
it was
would
like live
draw
action.
over live action.
Yeah.
And Fire and Ice.
Yes, same thing, right?
It's coming.
So, believe it or not, my dad was into it as well, who is not a nerd at all. But for some reason, he liked Lord of the Rings. So I remember him bringing me to the movies to watch them. So I got into it even more. I was like, oh, this is kind of great. Then next thing you know, I start playing board games a little bit, you know, chess, checkers, usual progression. Next thing was Stratego.
Yeah, I love Stratego.
Those
Okay.
were the little like
They look like little
Napoleonic
castle,
pictures on
Everything,
either
Yeah,
side.
like a
everything
little
faces
castle
you, and you're looking for the flag.
Yeah, everything's like it had a little castle
Yep,
piece kind
yep.
of thing, you know, bomb miner, Stratego. I still remember the commercial.
Yeah.
You could actually look it up.
I remember
Maybe
the
we'll
art
get
in the
John
box.
to link the Stratego commercial because it's still engraved in my
It's
head.
definitely on the internet for
It's
sure.
engraved in my head. So
This is Stratego, not a place, not a time, but a battle of wit and skill and strategy. Stratego, we're generals, field marshals, scouts and lieutenants. Miners and spies all conspire with bombs and brains to capture the enemy flag, to win the battle, to win the game. Get Stratego from Milton Bradley. Victory awaits you.
so I was getting into war games, and obviously the next step from Stratego for me was Risk. Epic Games of Risk. I don't know if you guys played Epic Games of Risk, where you
4
play
or
for
5 hours.
4 or
games
5
of Risk.
hours. I played 4 or
With you
5
guys,
days of Risks because we would make treaties, you know, and like if you violated these treaties, you had to sacrifice a certain amount of armies or even sacrifice territories. All this stuff would happen, blah blah blah. So that's where my wargaming came in, and then it was 1984, which for me was 8th grade. Yes, I'm that old. New kid moves into the neighborhood. His name was Willie Sue, and I haven't spoken to Willie Sue in it's got to be 20 years. It would be amazing if he watches this somehow, somewhere,
Hey,
and the
never
algorithm.
know. You
If the
never know.
algorithm finds him because I said his name,
Yeah.
new neighborhood kid comes in. You know, back then it was like new neighborhood kid. What do? You invite him to your house. You have him for dinner. Bring him to your room.
Yeah, play outside.
Show these are the games I have. These are the games you have. So on and so forth. So for me, it was mostly like video games and sports stuff. And for him, when I got there, we're in the room. I think we were playing Atari 2600, just messing around. And just looking around his room, he's got a bookshelf, whatever, and I see the Monster Manual on the shelf, and I'm like, "What is this Monster Manual? What the hell is this?" So I open it up, and what do I see? I see pictures of, at the time, I think it was just like sketches, right? The old Monster Manual. I don't think
they're
there was
all
no
black.
color.
No,
it was black and white. It was just like
The
ink.
cover was color, but
cover
everything else
was
was
Yeah,
black and
everything
white.
was black and white. It was just
Yeah.
ink sketches
Yeah.
of the monsters. And, now I'm drawing correlations to Lord of the Rings, which I'm basically at this point a closet fan of because I had just read the books that maybe 4 years prior, just saw the movies. Now here I'm looking at a Monster Manual. Now, mind you, I am a sports head. So here I am looking at pictures of the creatures that I want to imagine and see visualized finally.
You got the back of the baseball card.
And
on
then
there.
I got the back of the baseball card right next to it. What the stats?
Stats.
Hit points, strength,
Treasure type.
God, let's get into that. What is treasure type? What does that mean? And there's letters there, A, B, Z. I'm like, what the hell do these letters mean? And I'm looking into it. So I bring it to his attention. I'm like, what is this? He's like, oh, it's a game my uncle introduced me to. It's called Dungeons and Dragons. I'm like, well, what do you do? He goes, well, you make characters and you go on an adventure with your friends. And these are some of the creatures that you would have to encounter and maybe either defeat, fight, either, outsmart them or actually beat them. And I'm like, wait. You're telling me that I can have a sheet with my statistics on it? Jock immediately. I'm like, so I'm not good enough to get on a baseball card, but man, I'm good enough to get on a character sheet.
Yeah, 18
And,
decks.
and
Let's
there's
go.
even a little, and if you, I don't know if you remember the old like parchment, like character sheets from back in the day.
Yeah, I remember those.
There
were
was a character sketch box. right?
Little square.
Yeah, just a
Armor
little
class
square.
was a shield, right?
Yeah. But it was a little character sketch box. So like now I'm looking at this like this is my baseball card.
That's your portrait.
This is my I mean, it's your portrait of your character, but this is like so. I'm seeing my baseball card. I'm seeing stats, and I'm going to go fight somebody with a team of guys. So those two things I just got my chocolate and my peanut butter. So the jock has become a nerd, as they not that either are a bad parlance, but for me they were both. I wear them as badges of honor. I still am both.
And they didn't gel back in the day.
No,
Like,
they did
those-
not gel in
when
the
we-
80s.
When we were younger, that
it
was
did not gel.
Your
I mean, I'm sure that happens today at some. Not maybe. I think it's better now. I think gaming is
it's
a
so
lot
much
more mainstream.
Yeah.
I don't want to be like, oh, back in my day, but that unfortunately, it was back in my day. It was not. You did not tell anybody.
We were very
you played
much-
Dungeons and Dragons.
No.
Even though, and it was bad enough, I had to tell people I was in the chess club while I was on the track team and the baseball team, because that's even like, you going to play with those those nerds playing chess. I'm like, yeah, I am. I said because they're smarter than you, and I have better conversation with them than I have with you. And on top of that, you can't hit my fastball, so STFU. Like it's like, so it was like I had that hybrid going on, and then I had the Luscious Locks back then, and I was a Guido. I was a Cougine from Staten Island. I had the Cougine lean. When you drive the car.
Oh boy.
A little bit of lean to the right.
I'm kind of glad I didn't know you back then. We probably wouldn't be friends.
Well, visually, it was weird because I was, I had the appearance of the Cougine, but yet I listened to rock and roll and like 70s.
Dio.
Yeah. I'm listening to Dio, and but I mean, musically, I was eclectic. Basically, my whole life is eclectic. I play now, thanks to Christopher. We play everything. I will watch any sport. You could put two roaches on the table and just slap a flag on them, and I'll root for the one with the American flag on it. I mean, so I got a little bit of both, like just put together constantly. So D&D, I still think D&D made me smarter. D&D enhanced my vocabulary. Everybody knows about the correlation to gaming and intelligence. Any gamer that comes into our store at Red Seal Gaming is probably, I would say, well above average intelligence, because it just happens when your problem-solving skills get increased. I mean, I could turn Red Seal Gaming to a preaching on how gaming can probably help your kid get through school.
Yeah.
Right?
Learn your ABCs through Dungeons and Dragons.
You really can. I mean, it just goes on and on. Reading in general just helps you do those things. So D&D turned into a place for me to also get creative. So everything I wanted to do was to start making characters. And whenever I'm making characters, and I'll get 5, 6, 7, 8 characters. And I'm like, and I'm playing with this guy, Willie, and then Willie moves.
Oh, no, Willie.
He moved.
The Void.
The Void. And I'm like, at the time I was playing with my cousin Scott, my neighbor Billy, my buddy Willie. And basically
This was first edition D&D, right?
Advanced Dungeons and Dragons,
right?
Basically,
It was.
He actually showed me first edition stuff, but then at that point we were already playing advanced. This is beyond Redbox and stuff like that.
Yeah.
This is because after Redbox and Blue Box was the expert box. Became
I forgot when they added the advanced part.
after the boxes.
Yeah,
it became Advanced Dungeons and Dragons. So that's what I was playing hardcore. But then we're getting into high school. And as we mentioned, you don't tell anybody you're playing D&D in the lunchroom in high school in 1985, right? 1986, 1987. You just don't.
Looks like fun and games in Stranger Things.
No.
But
Yeah. Okay. I mean, you saw it in Stranger Things. What they depicted, that's the truth. That's what was happening back then. And I was definitely a child of both worlds, being a sports guy too. So I was looking for a new play group. So my brother Michael comes in and says, "Hey Dan, can you show us how to play D&D?" Because he'd been watching me, play in the house, and he
what
kinda
year
enjoyed
was the D&D cartoon too? I forget that because I remember that messed my head up too. Is having the
Wait, we're getting a piece of history from behind us, right?
I remember the D&D cartoon coming on Saturday mornings.
1983.
So that probably coming out, and then
Who says this stuff behind us isn't useful?
it didn't fall.
That's
either,
actually a metal ticket from the
the
like carnival ride.
From the carnival ride. I remember that messed me up. Like its correlation where now it's a cartoon, and it didn't that show really didn't fit how D&D played, but it was the
D&D.
80s.
We've talked about the 80s and how cartoons were made to sell toys.
Yeah.
that show was made to sell toys.
Yeah.
Action figures, so on and so forth. But still, we'll take anything, right? So now I'm playing D&D. I'm looking as a DM, DMing Michael, yourself, Bito.
Even before me, you had
Even
a group.
before you, we
Yeah.
were doing that. Yeah, you came, like you said, you came in
I was-
later. We had been playing for a couple of years together already. This is even before the Red Seal started, and I remember going to buy. I needed minis because at the time we were using like cardboard cutouts for the
I don't
combat.
even remember. It was all like theater of the mind too.
Yeah,
Like,
it was mostly theater of the
It wasn't
mind.
even a grid system.
And then I was like, well, people started playing with minis, and I'm like, all right, where do I find 20 goblins in the 80s? Well, the middles was it Ralpatha,
Rapatha and
and that was
forget
I
the
think
other box. And they were like those smaller
Grenadier?
boxes. Grenadier.
Grenadier was like the only companies making, and it was like you can get a character or two, or maybe one ogre.
There was never
You're
never
not going to
mass.
get 20 goblins.
Never,
You're not going to
ever.
get 30 hobgoblins. If you play D&D now, you need kobolds, all those
Yeah.
little guys. They run in packs,
You
right?
just wanted any kind of miniature.
And so
really.
I go to my store at the time, and Staten Island was a place called, oh my goodness, it just went out. Well, we went to Jim Hanley's, which was also at the time it was in Eltonville in Staten
yeah,
Island.
local comic book store.
Why
but they
can't-
carried all that stuff too.
Why can't I remember the name of the comic store? Oh my goodness, I'm getting that. Dan is that old. In Eltonville,
Ginkgo biloba.
Ginkgo biloba. Oh my god, I can't remember the name. It'll come to me. Anyway, I'm at my LGS at the time, and I go in and I'm like, I need to buy some goblins. I need like 20 of them. He's like, oh, right over there. There's a plastic box. It says Citadel on it, and I'm like, Citadel, what's that? And I opened it. They had the plastic box with like 20 metal.
And they were
goblins.
like all white, if I
They
remember.
were-
like,
yeah.
pure
Oh, that was
white
that was
white
before
metal,
the
yeah.
plastic. This is still the metal
Oh,
at the time.
oh, that's right.
Yeah, this is right before the plastic started coming out. So Jim Hanley's Universe had them, but this other store had them. Oh my god, I can't believe it'll come to me. But I'm like, wow, there's like 30 goblins in this box. And look, there's 40 orcs over here. And look, there's 10 dwarves. So now, if for those of you that aren't familiar with Warhammer Fantasy at the time, it was race war. It was dwarves, it was elves, it was goblins.
It was Tolkien.
It was Tolkien.
It was Tolkien-esque.
What did I just say? I got Tolkien on the brain, D&D, boom, this is the progression, right? So now I come home with like 40, 60 minis, and I'm like, great, this is great. So we play, I use a bit of D&D game, everybody loves them. They're like, Dan, where'd you get these minis? So I got them at the comic store, blah, blah, blah. Well, why do you need what game would use all these minis? I said, I don't know. Well, let's go see. We get there, and what's there? The big orange Warhammer Fantasy 3rd edition book.
Armies. Warhammer. I think it's in this room.
You know what? It might be. We'll have to. We'll
It's scary enough.
oh
but
my God! Wait, I see it.
That book is here. The book that we used.
It's right there under the tree, right?
Dan destroying the entire podcast is falling down right now. I mean, you've seen this book online, but
Yeah, this is not. This
that
is not
book,
the third. Or it's for 3rd edition, but this is not the core 3rd edition rulebook. The 3rd edition rulebook was like an orange thing. This is.
That's how we built our armies, though.
Yeah, this is the Warhammer Armies book. So this was like the first supplement for the game. So originally, all the traditional Armies books were only in everything was one. You bought the one book, everything was in there.
Yeah.
Right. Then this was kind of like the first supplement for it. It had some of the craziest art. Look at that.
The stat lines.
Oh, the stat lines are great.
You've seen
Yeah.
these, but like that book he's holding is the book we had as kids. So like it's
Yeah,
survived.
This has survived that long. I
Take care
have
of-
I have the orange book.
Yeah, take care of your stuff, kids.
Okay.
'Cause,
Yeah,
like, you know,
But that
As he
book.
throws it on the floor.
Well, that's what I've been doing for years, and it helped. They don't make the books the way they used to when I was a kid,
Oh,
which
boy.
is true. They don't. That book
You
is
should turn RSG1 into the gaming museum.
the gaming museum. Oh my god!
Like empty out the basement and empty out all your cardboard boxes and just line
we're
the
gonna do
walls
that-
with
If we're gonna do that,
museum level
we will,
quality
if
stuff.
we're gonna mention the gaming museum, I'm gonna have to mention something else because this is how much I love D&D. So, some of you see me on Discord. My pure name on Discord, like when you first make your account, is Dekion. I got that name from the cartoon. But I just love the character. He was a celestial knight that had made of barf.
no, but he's a celestial knight who's now a undead.
Undead
Skeleton
skeleton
guy.
because he made a mistake.
Okay, better.
He made a mistake. He betrayed his friends. He betrayed the rest of the celestial knights.
very Vader.
And
very Vader.
very
story.
Vader-esque. And Venger hence wiped out the rest of the Order. And he's trying to now break his skeletal curse, and he has to redeem himself. Spoiler alert, he does, but watch the episode. It's called The Quest of the Skeleton Warrior. I forget what episode number it is.
It
from
tracks
D&D
very
cartoons.
much with Dan's like.
It's if you want to know what Dan is and about like why I have this redemption arc thing in my head, I don't know, because I don't ever remember doing anything bad. I always remember being a pretty good guy, but maybe there's something in my history that I've
it's
blocked
the
out.
arc that you enjoy.
I enjoy.
You follow.
I enjoy that even the bad guy,
Can redeem himself.
can redeem himself. Don't be rolling your eyes at me, Albert.
There's
There's
the great emperor right there.
Yeah. Okay.
Never
All right.
has to redeem himself
All
because
right.
he's always
But
right.
his greatest pupil did redeem himself
It's
and took his dumb ass and chucked him in a hole.
It's the great
Okay?
bad with the apprentice who like.
Yeah.
It's that.
It's a trope I love.
Dan's
Yeah.
paladin in hell was always his favorite trope.
Oh my god!
It's
The
like
old,
that.
if you want to look at the old player's handbook back in the day in the paladin section, is an old school like Excalibur movie armor with giant like heavy plate armor. Just
That guy was sweating. That guy was losing pounds.
but he's
like,
surrounded by demons and devils, and he's still going at it.
sweating
He's
out
like-
those pounds in
he's-
that thing. That guy was not.
Hey, listen, he lived. Okay, in my heart of hearts, I believe that guy's still alive somewhere. We got to find that artist. He's probably dead.
Oh my god.
I would love to know like what the inspiration was for that art.
OG Prince.
Anyway, I made this character, and
He's your icon now, Dekion.
he's my icon. Yeah. So he had a character. I had this character. He got married, had a child in game in the campaign I was playing. This is before you guys. This is before Willie left, and the character has a traumatic ending. Somebody opened up a cubic gate in my castle, and they opened up to like the ninth plane of hell. And I had in a previous campaign. Do you remember the Deck of Many Things?
Mhm.
There's
The campaign ender.
the campaign ender. Well, it got me, but it didn't get me for years. Okay, because you make like enmity with the devil was
Yeah, I
one
remember
of the
there
old
was one
cards.
like there's an
There's an entity.
otherworldly power.
There's an
that's taken-
otherworldly power that's now coming for you, right? Well, it didn't come for me for almost 10 years of real time, right? So it finally comes for me. It invades my castle. We were not ready for it. This is TPK. And when I say TPK, I should call it TFK because it was total family kill because the bastards killed my wife. And in a heroic moment, my character, Dekion, got his son out of the castle and he survived. But Dekion had to make a save.
Oh, this is the save or die.
Yes.
This is why we
And
mess with Dan. Like Dan will roll great, but Dan, when told, save or
save
die.
or die. I
You
will
roll A?
I will probably roll a 1. And this is what happened. It was an illusion. He made an illusion that the castle was crumbling down on top of me.
You had to disbelieve.
And I had to disbelieve the illusion. Now that's how it worked, But if you fail this test, it's as if it
believe it.
really happened to you. Mentally, you take enough psychic damage to die from it.
well, back
So,
when
back then, no paladins.
and
were-
there was no damage. You just
No.
if you failed, you're dead because
Yeah.
your brain can't. It wasn't like here.
There was save or die.
Here's a hard die. Here's a second hard
no,
die.
it
no,
was-
no,
you're-
you're dead.
You're dead.
You're dead. So now at the time, paladins were really. I mean, saves. Your charisma bonus was your save modifier. Like it. I had
you
like,
needed everything but a 1.
basically, I needed a 3 to make this test, and I rolled a 1, and the character died, and I was heartbroken, absolutely destroyed. So much so that I took the character, I put it in a Ziploc bag, I put it in an old metal like case with like the old like single hook key, right? For like the 70s that my uncle had or whatever, and I buried it in the backyard in Staten Island at 50 Loring Avenue.
So you know what the lure is.
Yeah.
At some point before the end, you buy that house.
Yeah.
We dig up the backyard and we
Yeah.
find
So-
that
Now,
character.
mind you, I tried. When his parents sold that house, I go, dude, I have no problem renting a jackhammer from Home Depot, and we dig that out.
Because
They
what-
never would have known it was below the shed.
Because what happened was when we were moving, it had come up in conversation about, Dan, you got to get the character out of them. And I'm like, you're right. I got to go get it. It just had been so long. I had forgotten that my parents extended the patio in the backyard
Oh, so it's under concrete.
It's under concrete.
He's entombed.
He's entombed.
Oh my goodness!
Someone's gonna
Staten
find that.
Island.
Someone's gonna dig up that.
One of these days.
An
excavate.
archaeologist 1,000 years from now is going to
Who's
look up this Dekion.
Look at this save on this guy.
He would never
He
die.
would never lose to a save or die situation.
Oh my god.
That's so
oh my
funny.
god.
I was ready to dig that puppy up. Late night, 3 o'clock
He
in the
wanted.
morning.
He was like, he still says it every now and then.
I'm like, the house already went past home inspection, so like, there's no way they're
Yeah.
gonna know it's under the patio.
Whenever I'm on Staten Island, we drive by the house and I give it like a little
Yeah.
homage to Dekion, who has failed an illusionist save. I still can't believe it. But anyway, that's my D&D story, which got me into Warhammer. Warhammer got me. So we find the GW minis, and then I bring the whole crew over, and then we find the minis, and the next thing you know, we're playing Warhammer, and then that story kind of just coalesces into Warhammer. The board games were always war oriented for me, so it was obviously Risk. Then I don't know if I'm kind of old. Some of you, I mean, they still sell them on the shelves because Avalon Hill owns the title now. But the Milton Bradley Game Master series, I think I wrote down the year they were out. Yeah, 1984, Axis and Allies. Right, they were made by Milton Bradley. World War II games, Axis and Allies. They had. Then they had. Wrote it down because I'm old AF. I'm not going to remember them. Conquest of the Empire, which was the Roman version
Yes, I remember that.
of it. Then there was Broadsides and Boarding Parties.
Ooh.
Right, that was the Pirates version of the games. Then there was Fortress America, which we might be,
I remember Fortress America.
which we might be reliving as we speak. For those of you who know current economic times, Fortress America was a game. America was obviously the biggest superpower in the future. 20 years, 30 years later. So I think it took place in 20 something. I don't remember. So this game came out in 86. This is 45, 50 years in the future. America's such a superpower that the rest of the world is coming for us. So, we just became a fortress in ourselves and have to defend against the entire world. Shogun, which was the feudal Japanese
Yep,
one,
I
which is
remember that one.
probably one of my favorites for sure. So again, all just tabletop
Extensions
of battle, going back to green and tan or gray and gray, if you want to say. So then I was trying to find a way, because I always like to get the chocolate and the peanut butter, right? So I'm playing D&D, I'm playing war games, I'm playing Warhammer. How do you get it all together? I don't know if you remember. I am old, but in 1985, Dungeons & Dragons came out with Battle System.
Remember the guy writing the Triceratops on the cover of that? And it was probably Larry Elmore.
But Battle System was a way to bring in a large-scale battle for your D&D characters, where they could be like iconic, like generals or soldiers.
That beginning of I think tabletop wargaming was in its infancy, or at least coming over here into America's infancy. And it was like, how do we get that into Dungeons and Dragons?
Probably because they saw the money
behind the scenes.
Yeah.
We were too young to realize that, but you look back on it.
No, when I look back at it now, you always look, because follow the money.
Yeah.
Follow the money, right? So they took this system and they gave us a way to take our characters and put them on a tabletop and play a war.
Yeah,
with
big
them.
war.
Yeah, and there was a whole system about you don't actually die in the battle. You would get hurt, and just like anything else, just like what in Warhammer. I mean, we always talk about the lore about fantasy in 40K and like Grazgul Thaka. He doesn't die if you kill him. He just gets injured and he has to leave the battlefield and retreat to come back another day and say, "You got new friends now, Space Marine."
Oh boy.
Yeah. So Battle System was just another way for me to enjoy Dungeons & Dragons
Crossing the
and the
streams.
miniatures. I love crossing the streams and boom.
I remember too and then you got to go back to the fact that Warhammer and all these games was a generational thing, because we also so Dan's Basement is something you should definitely talk about. The system of Dan's Basement was where we all played. So we always played in Dan's house in some semblance of form. And then when Dan had kids and his kids got old enough, it was
let's bring up one little thing. Go back a little bit, because I want to. My wife would be happy that we mentioned this.
All I hear is sound.
So before, obviously, I get married to my beautiful wife Milena. We move out, apartments, and one of the things why my wife is a saint is that she had to deal with me and my friends playing games in the house, and she was always fantastic about it. She was always a trooper about it.
Somewhat later than normal.
Somewhat later than normal. So I was on an afternoon shift, so I did not have to get up in the morning. My wife was pregnant with my first son. She's trying to get to sleep. It's 3:00 in the morning, and the 4 to 6 of us are playing. I think we were playing Necromunda.
Yeah, I want to say it was probably
I think
it was either Dungeons and Dragons
or
Necromunda.
Necromunda. That's what we were into at the time during my wife's first pregnancy. And at like midnight, she comes out because my wife's pretty soft spoken. She comes out and she's like, "Honey, can you just keep it down? I got to get up at 5 o'clock in the morning." Blah, blah, blah. She goes, "I know you keep having fun. Blah blah blah. Just all right, honey. Sure, no
Yeah,
problem."
we would get quiet and then crescendo. And
But
then
we,
quiet and then
just like
crescendo.
when you watch the podcast, when we get excited about a topic, the levels get a little higher and higher. So we're playing, and Sal got a little loud, which if you're watching the podcast,
Always.
Sal gets a little loud because he's shouting at the universe.
Yeah.
But he gets crazy
They gotta
loud.
hear me up there. I mean, come on.
He gets crazy loud. My wife comes storming out in like a 90.
Yeah, and it wasn't just
And
me. Like, let's be
what-
straight. But
he
I
says
was
this
the
all
loud.
the time. It wasn't just me, which it wasn't. We were all loud, but as usual, Sal was the loudest. So she comes out in her 90, pregnant. I think she was like 7 or 8 months pregnant. And she's got to get up in like 2 hours, and we're screaming, yelling, and she comes stomping out of the room, and she starts screaming, "All I hear is Sal." Those 5 words that still ring in his head to this day.
It's a running joke now.
It'll never stop. So that's just, that was the beginning of the journey of Dan and his friends
Yeah.
playing at my house.
And finally, when he got a house and he had a basement, there was enough concrete and beams in between where Melena
and
slept.
a floor.
And a
And
floor.
a whole floor.
Yeah.
Because we were in the basement, and then it was the first floor,
Yeah.
and she was all the way up.
3. I mean, technically, she was 3.
Yeah, and I think
spaces
she
of-
still heard us probably, but she would just
Probably.
probably not say
But then-
much.
but
we'll have
then-
to ask her.
generationally, your oldest Danny boy got old enough, and your nephew Eric got old enough, and then they started playing Warhammer Fantasy Battle with us, and so it was always us in his basement brewing up lists. And
Aiden
playing.
having his first taste of Mountain Dew.
Oh yeah, complete.
He was like a
caffeine,
little-
sugar
He was like a
meltdown.
crazy little Luke Goblin running around. Like, what is that? What is that?
Yeah.
How many dice? How many
Yeah.
dice? Why would you have so many dice? But yeah, he was like just going around nuts.
And then passing out under the table because we couldn't find him for 15 minutes,
15 minutes. It was like a half hour,
Yeah.
dude. I was panicked
which
because
is great parenting by us. We're
well,
like,
because my wife was out. She's like, Aiden's gonna be
Watch the
blah blah blah.
kids.
Watch the kids. I'm like, I'm playing Warhammer. Oh, yeah, I'll watch the kids. Here you go. Here's a Mountain Dew. Shut the hell up.
oh,
Give him the Mountain Dew. The kid runs around. He burns out from the sugar and the caffeine. Yes, this is Aiden from the store. For those that are watching, that tall, handsome dude that works behind the counter, other than me, he is missing for about 35 minutes until my oldest son Dan finds him sleeping under the war game
yeah,
table.
complete Mountain Dew
Yeah.
crash.
He just crashed out. He had his blanket and his little stuffed animal. It was a little a wolf.
I'm sure he's excited that you're saying
that
that.
upset. Well, I won't say the name of it. I'm not going to say the name of it. It had a name, and I don't want the guys teasing him.
It would have been better if it was like that little nurgling or something like that. He was
No,
huddling,
he,
was huddling
he,
and
was,
nurgling.
he was into like dogs.
My
He was
Guo,
into a
cuddling
dog.
my
It was like
Guo.
it was a husky, and it had a name. I won't say it this way; it doesn't catch any ridicule. If he wants to say it later, he's more than welcome to tell everybody at the store if they want to know the name of the pup.
Oh boy.
He had like 5 of them, but he was also like 5.
He
at
was
the time.
he was he was very young.
Yeah.
But once again, that was a generational. We brought them into Dungeons and Dragons. We played with them, and we started playing Warhammer with them,
And then we bring so in the basement. Let me write that down. That's 5 times we mentioned the basement. So in the basement is where Chris eventually came, where Big John
hey,
came.
come down and play
Yeah, we just
in the basement with
because
them.
this is where this is where you could say that how gaming got me into my philosophy of how I want to run a store. We got a cool place to hang out. Come hang out with us at this cool place and play these great games that we have a great time.
But
playing.
also it had that you respected the fact that it was someone's house, right? And like so there was always like new people we did bring into the store basement. There was that like, well, this is Dan's basement,
yeah,
so
let's
like
take care of it. So
yeah,
that's where
and
we
there's young kids around too. So like there's only you'd curse here and there, but there was the vulgarity. You kind of kept it, PG for the time, and it was, but that was like part of
and
part
that
of it too.
carried over into the seal.
Yeah.
How it is. So it's just funny how all these things coalesced into how when I started getting into the naming convention of the store. I know I've talked about it in the past, but I know there's a lot of new people. We got the relaunch of the podcast. I'll mention it quickly. I was originally going to name this place Dan's Basement.
Which has
That's a great idea.
Yeah.
Yes.
Bring kids on.
Yeah,
Dan.
yes. So
To
the
Dan's
basement, which we called it the basement because the whole crew know where are you guys playing this weekend? We're playing at the basement.
Yeah. Beth would ask me where are you?
Dan's-
I'm going to be in the basement.
I'm gonna be in the basement. What
Yeah.
the hell? I mean, our family and friends knew what we were talking about, but strangers were probably like, "What's the basement? What's going on there?" So I was like, "Hey, babe, if I ever open a store someday, let's call it Dan's Basement." And my wife was like, immediately, she's like, not that she would ever stamp me down because she always backs my place, but she was like, "Honey,
That sounds creepy.
if you can imagine your daughter coming to you and saying that when she's 5 years old that I'm going to play a game in Dan's basement, how would you feel about that?" And when she put that in perspective, I'm like, yeah, now it sounds like I'm a creep.
I
Like,
couldn't see that on magnets or anything.
Yeah,
At
Dan's
this point, the
basement.
branding is so
it
much
would be
better.
me with like a little lollipop.
Yeah, I'm like,
You want to come play in my basement? Yeah. Right off the cliff.
going
Though.
right
So
to the
that's
cliff.
So Dan's basement,
Dan's basement
Would have
free
basically been the
shuttles-
same
free
as, like-
shuttle service with this van.
free shuttle service to Dan's basement. Just and you get a free lollipop with every ride.
Yeah.
That would have been terrible. So that immediately was like not going to happen. And that was just me with starting my conversations about wanting to open a store, wanting to take this place further. Imagine again the conversations of imagining having a store or whatever. Chris starting to get us into board games. I go to the game room. I meet John. John introduces me to Chris, and that's how the three of us converged. So the game room is a very important part.
The
of,
Nexus.
yeah.
Of the,
And
like,
it's also watching a
the
store
three of us got
from
together.
how a store's being run and seeing like, hey, we're going to change the rug.
like
The rug
do
can't
this,
have all-
don't do that.
Yeah, maybe
you
some
know.
of the stuff not to do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's what started our treks. How many times I'd be like, hey, there's a store just open over here.
Yeah.
Let's go check them out.
We
And
did it at Adepticon. Like,
Yeah.
even now, it's like, hey, there's a store right here. Let's
Yeah,
go check it out.
we still do that.
Yeah.
We still do that because I'm not stupid. I know sometimes people doing things better than me. So let's go see what they're doing.
There's always ideas and rooms to improve.
Right? So maybe somebody's doing something better than me. Let me do it like them. You know, or maybe take what they got and do it better. And I hope that other store owners are doing the same thing.
Yeah.
Come see what we do, and if you can improve on it, great. You know, just give people a place to game because gamers need gamers.
I think you've talked about this before, but every time you travel somewhere new, I do the same. I always look board game store in the area, card game store in the area.
Oh yeah.
I traveled for work a couple weeks ago. I stopped at 6 stores on my way as I was traveling the
Yep.
3-hour drive to go where I was
Gather the
going.
data.
Yeah, don't
Just
put
looking
Game
at-
Store in because I used to get like casino games, like
Or
well,
GameStop.
Or GameStop, all the GameStops.
Just put collectible card games, and that's always one.
Yeah, that's
like fine.
the minimum one phone call a day we get.
Or Warhammer.
You guys have the PlayStation 3 controllers, you know, like
Yeah,
we still get
I
that
do
call.
Warhammer, and that kind of like gives me the Warhammer corporate stores,
Mm-hmm.
and then sometimes that too. But collectible card games.
So, you know, that's pretty much how we got to where we're at
Yeah.
right now. But real quick, I will mention
Yeah, so what did the favorite board game?
favorite board game. Obviously, you've both mentioned it already. I'm going to have to say it. I know you guys passed on it to let the old man claim it, but it's without a doubt Lords of Waterdeep. The theme, it's D&D. Every card that I read, it's the 4,700 books I read in the Forgotten Realms. Another thing about D&D and me, it's Forgotten Realms and Dragonlance, those two campaign settings. A little bit of Greyhawk, because they did play in Greyhawk back in the day.
That was the generic setting, so I never
but
never,
the content wasn't there. Forgotten Realms, which is the same reason it got you, is the Salvatore books.
the history
the
parallel
actually-
too, like areas of the realms were like,
Yeah.
oh, you go to the Far East and it has an
Dude,
Asian
every
flair.
month.
You go to the South, it's like Khadim. And
Yeah,
it's like,
every month a new supplement was coming out
Yeah.
for a period of time in the 80s.
and a novel.
a supplement, a novel, just more background. And then as a dungeon,
Golden times.
the Carator,
Yeah.
you know, like all those like supplements coming out just made it even better. So
Waterdeep was an extension.
so Waterdeep is an extension of that. And then the funny story about Waterdeep, though, I have to, because we're gonna have to get Big John on the show at this point because we keep mentioning Big John between the game room and whatever.
Do we have
So,
to?
We have to because you want. And
Where's he gonna fit?
Yeah, I did. You know what? That's
We're going to need a bigger table.
We might have to blow out the ceilings again. But Big John hanging out in the game room. I'd go every weekend. We'd go get some. We'll tell you we'll mention the pen story at
Johnny Rockets.
Johnny Rockets one of these days. We'll mention that. But for now, I used to go eat lunch with Big John. We would talk shop, maybe play a game, just basically shoot the shit as we say. And he would know my interests. So he was like, "Hey Dan, you should try this," and Dan, you should try that. And 9 times out of 10, I bought his recommendations or your recommendations, as well as buying my Warhammer and my Magic there. Where we met Wei Lin. That's where I met Wei Lin too many times he would beat me on the third game. Again, man, I hate that kid for that. I know you're in Japan. You probably could watch this in Japan, so watch it. But he would mention Lords of Waterdeep. And I looked at the box and I looked at the lore and I'm like, it's great.
was
But
the
there was
problem?
one thing, and in the end, it was probably my fault, that was missing from Lords of Waterdeep. If you're going to play Lords of Waterdeep, there is no dice. It is a European worker placement card game. So it does not have any dice. And for me, Dungeons and Dragons, there's another N for me. It's and dice.
Yeah. Well, that was one of the conventions of us getting away from it. Had to have dice. Like that
It
was
had
the
to have
first time
dice, yeah.
I played something without
Yeah,
dice.
so for, I don't know, almost 2 years, I would be like, dude, stop telling me to buy this stupid game because I am not buying this stupid game. And I owe John, I've lost 2 years of enjoyment of Lords of Waterdeep because I did not listen to John.
There's only
and-
one expansion, so it's not like we've.
Unfortunately, there's only one expansion, but we sell it in the store. It's a great game. It's like $50, and you want to talk about getting your money's worth out of a $50 game, and the expansion I think is another $40 for, and there's actually 2 expansions in the expansion box.
modular.
Yeah, there's
There is,
2.
yeah.
Yeah, you could use one or use both.
You
or
can use one,
none.
you can use both, you can use all 3.
I can guarantee you we will definitely do a playthrough of Lords of Waterdeep for this podcast at some point.
Yeah.
And you'll see the blinged out versions
Yeah.
like that
Okay, yeah,
that we
yeah.
all have, like
Yeah.
the metal
That's
coins.
the other
and
thing. Like the
different
$50
things and-
game is now probably like a $350 game because
But
they
it-
built metal coins.
We have a lot of games like that, but
Yeah.
that's a whole different show.
You know what? We have to do it because we got the new play mat, the grippy mat.
We do not have to use that.
We have to use the grippy mat.
We're
All
not
right, so-
using corruption, but
Sal
It's
hates
on
corruption. Mr. Evil himself doesn't like corruption.
I love the corruption.
so
I-
hard.
It's so hard.
I'll
right,
have to
so-
go back. It's like, come on.
So my board game is without it. Lords of
Mini
Waterdeep.
games.
The other games that you guys mentioned, I do love. I'll play anything once at the very least. That's one lesson that I've learned by bringing the young vampire in. Was I will play anything once at the very least and give anything a shot. So mini games, obviously, you know where I'm going to go. It's Warhammer, and I will just say Warhammer in general because I have played every Warhammer game ever made. You name it, even the what was the little micro ones? What the-
Epic?
Epic. I even
Yeah.
played Epic. I still have Epic bases at home. I've played the pirate game. What the hell was that called?
Dreadfleet.
Dreadfleet. Okay.
That was actually a really good game.
yeah, I still have.
got-
You
that
know what?
was-
We should bring it to the store and just show people that
That
game.
only got maligned because it wasn't Man of War. Everybody
Wanted
wanted
Man
Man
of War and it
Man of
wasn't,
War.
yeah.
Oh, it's a board game,
Yeah.
and that was like once again that was GW trying to make a single board game,
Yeah.
and like we're not having it because it's not Warhammer.
It's
Fantasy
not
Battle.
war.
Where's my army
Yeah,
book? It
I'm
takes
like, it is
12 years.
war. It's war on the ship. This is how
That was a good
these
game.
armies get from landmass to landmass. There's water in the way, and they fight on the water sometimes.
And
This
they
is
were
just
all
another-
unique captains and like the
The
Maelstrom
ships-
in the middle.
The ships were unique too.
Yeah,
They
it
were,
was-
again, they were very
but it-
racially oriented.
but
you
it
know?
wasn't Man of War.
It wasn't
so-
Man of War, so people got poo-pooed it. Obviously, I played Warhammer Fantasy 3rd Edition.
Warhammer Quest.
On and on. Warhammer Quest, which we got to break out. I have the 2 boxes of it. We should break that at the store.
OG.
Right? That's just a great
You
game.
never die in the dungeon. You just die on the road.
You
back
die
to-
just
back
trying to get back
yeah.
to so you can level up and find
Yeah,
your trainer
that
and,
was the worst.
and die in a duel on the
finding
street.
the trainer. God.
You had to find a trainer.
Is there a
you
trainer
would-
in this town?
No, shit.
So my level doesn't matter.
Yeah, it doesn't
Perfect.
mean nothing. All that experience.
Go
you
back
got
in the
for nothing.
dungeon at level 1.
It was a nightmare, but it was why we tortured ourselves because the game was fun. Right, the cleave mechanic, you would just chop heads off, kill 17 things at the same time.
power.
Rolling the
Well, you know
power
what?
every phase.
You remember when you die. You remember,
when you die.
died. Like
Yeah.
that's a story that you're gonna. You
Yeah.
might not remember every time that you've won, but
No.
you remember every time you die. So
OG Quest.
games like Quest that kill you,
Yeah.
sometimes they're
Yeah.
one of the most
Yeah.
memorable.
40K, of course, best lore of any game ever made. Everybody knows it. I don't think anybody would argue. Mostly been a Smurf player, as they say. Courage and Honor, mostly an Ultramarine player. I do play Grey Knights as well. I've dabbled in Necrons a little bit. I think I own a little bit of what the time it was called Skitarii when they first came out.
Yeah,
Yeah.
the Mechanicus.
Mechanicus now. So definitely anything Warhammer. I will put up. I got honorable mention to Mordheim, which
Yes.
might be making a comeback. There's rumors around Warcry becoming Mordheim. That would be amazing.
Yes, we have a whole. I have some tasty rumors we could talk about that different show.
Stay
Okay.
tuned. So, miniature gaming. I'm just going to mention Games Workshop. I think that's just easier
Okay,
for me to say.
Fair enough.
Yeah.
Card game.
Card games, it's really easy. Again, as an OG, I was there when it hit in '93. I remember getting a phone call. Why? Because I'm into D&D. I think it was Greg. What's his name?
Now that you say it,
It was Greg, right? It was Greg, and his wife was Storm, and
How do
that's
you
why.
forget a
How do you
girl
forget
named
somebody?
Storm?
Her name was actually Storm. She was cool as hell, man. Yeah. Oh, it's in my head now.
Yeah, I remember going. You took me to that dude's house, and that was like Magic Central, and I'm
It's
like I was
Magic
a younger
threw up.
dude.
Magic literally threw up in his living room. So he calls me up. He's like, Dan, you're into D&D, right? I said, yeah. He's like, oh, I got this card game. It's got knights and dragons, a Shivan dragon, and blah, blah, blah. You can just come and check it out. So I go there. He had 2 booster boxes. I get there about 8 o'clock. Next thing I know, it's 5 o'clock in the morning. The birds are chirping. We've been playing Magic all night. I immediately call in sick to work at 6 a.m. We went to get some breakfast at the Gold Dove Diner in Staten Island. We hung out a little while for the store to open, and now, because I'm old, it has come to me because I has relived the moment. The store was called the Alternate Realm. Alternate Realm.
I was like, Pete. Okay.
So now to say that we
I was-
activated the
I
core
knew
memory.
that. I wasn't sure that was the store.
That's the store I was referring to. So, Pete was the proprietor of this of said location, the Alternate Realm. I hope this finds way to him because he was a great guy. Gave us a place to hide. Gave us a place to stay out of trouble.
Also,
gave us a place to play.
And understanding how a game store works, like you used to. He was part of that too.
He helped me learn some of the basics to running a game store and some of the things to do and some of the things not to do, but mostly what to do. But we went back to Pete and we bought 2 more boxes each, and I'm playing that. Next thing I know, I'm playing Magic, and that's all I was doing was playing freaking Magic. If I was like walking around with my binders all over the house. I will tell you, it's my first time ever that I felt like I had an addiction problem in my life. Never alcohol, never drugs, just not my thing.
Evercrack? We had Evercrack.
Evercrack was a video game addiction, which I'm sure everybody has dealt with at one point or another. My wife hates that game. But with Magic, I actually got so bad with it that I remember taking money from like our wedding savings to go buy booster boxes of Magic. And then I was like,
dark times.
The dark times. Like, and I was, after it happened, I was like, oh my God, this is horrible. What the F am I doing? This is not how you become responsible adult, whatever. So I actually gave it up for Lent. I gave up
for Lent one time.
Listen, you're supposed to give up something you truly.
You know what?
Think how many
Right?
think how many moxes you missed. I mean, my God.
That's
Dude,
40,
right
that's
now,
40 Days of Black Lotus.
Your
right
wife
there.
would be like, "We could buy a new house with these cards." I mean, like that's the kicker. See what happened, Mills? Come on.
Dan gives up Magic the Gathering for Lent, and
That's awesome.
gave it up for 30 days. After Lent was over, I did start playing again, but it was definitely controlled, and I played it better.
Good for you.
Until the time when my lung collapsed when I was playing Magic the Gathering. I remember that. That's a tale for another day. But Magic the Gathering is without a doubt my favorite card game. It's still my favorite card game. I've played other things. I've played Destiny, loved it, loved rolling the dice. I would dare I say I like Destiny better than SWU because I did like the dice.
The dice were just a different.
It was just such a cool thing to have.
SWU's awesome.
I understand as a guy that's played competitively for Magic, I understand that dice are not a good mechanic to have in a game for a competitive game because the chance, right? As a competitive player, what you're trying to do is build a deck that is tuned properly, that limits chance and brings guarantees and certainties as best you can in a game where you have to shuffle cards, right? But an element of dice just brings in so much randomness that you really going to need some luck to win consistently in a competitive environment. So I understand why competitive players don't like Destiny. But for me, I love rolling dice. It's one of my favorite things to do. Hence why I wouldn't play Lords of Waterdeep for a long time, which was a mistake. But I do like SWU. I've dabbled in Flesh and Blood. I am excited for Gundam because I like Big Mech. But without a doubt, it's MTG all day, every day. And RPG, again, I'm an old curmudgeon. I remember this statue being on the cover of a book, and it was the Monster Manual.
Mm-hmm.
And it's the thing that probably without D&D, you don't have Red Seal Gaming.
I know a second RPG that I just thought of that we played a shit ton.
You gonna say Robo?
Palladium games. We played a lot. That was the only thing with our group. We played Palladium games.
And not just Robotech. We played Robotech with like SDCs and stuff like that.
Yes, the
structural damage.
structural damage,
Yeah.
regular structural damage.
Yeah.
Their system was the percentile
But-
system.
Assassins and Super Spy.
Oh my god! If anybody's ever watched Heat with Val Kilmer,
Val Kilmer.
ironically, and
There's Val.
that
I'm
movie,
almost for Val again.
that movie messed our heads up.
One of the
And
best action scenes ever.
It's
Heat.
one of the. They
Without a
actually
doubt.
teach that shootout to law enforcement, and that scene that happens, the gun shootout robbing the bank, is shown
As
in,
like-
as
yeah.
like training videos. There's actually Val Kilmer's reload on his gun is actually shown at Marine camp, and they're like, "You can't." I bet you can't reload your gun faster than this actor. Like,
Yeah.
I just now that he's passed these
Yeah.
videos, and
Coming
he actually
out,
got
yeah.
this commendation saying like he did such a tactically fast reload that they actually like you should beat him. Like,
Yeah.
But anyway, but that movie screwed us up, and we played.
We
the
played
Assassin's
Assassin's
Spy.
Super Spy. So another RPG for sure. We played Robotech. We got into playing games because of Robotech.
Yes,
Because we were
and then
big.
that-
Sal and I were huge fans of Robotech, as was my brother Michael. And we wanted to play something else. So we tried that for a little RPG.
That was
but
the
then-
system we really played.
And
a
then
lot
we
of.
found Assassins and Super Spies, and man, we had fun with that. But Bez had to do some. He had like a bionic
We
implant,
ruined it.
and he had like
Bez-
the government was after him.
We ruined it.
Bez ruined it.
Bez ruined it,
ruined
and
that
they
game.
found our hideout because the government was always looking for him.
We're all like
It was
humans.
it was like an A-team thing, right? And they always looked
like,
for him.
We're gonna do the job, but then all of a sudden now we have a cyborg with us who like is just like burn, like just set him on fire and walk around. Like the authorities are gonna find him. He's a cyborg. You know that was
And they find us. They found us. We were hiding in like we had like a sewer passage
on the
into
West
like a
Side
warehouse.
Highway. I never forget they were on the West Side Highway.
Yeah,
That was the
yeah.
thing. Like it was all based in like
Based in
you know,
reality.
reality. So it was tough to like bring that like other element in, but it was fun. But yeah, I forgot. I totally forgot that until you started talking about like what's another RPG you play with Dan?
yeah. Uh-huh.
Boom.
Without a doubt, yeah, that game too. But that's my RPGs. So those are my 5.
Those are our paths.
Those are our paths, and they all. It's funny they all converge at a game store, which was the Game Room, where the three of us basically. I mean, not that we met there, but it was a
Yeah.
place that we did go where we met John.
So
where
I went
met
there
Wei
years
Lin,
before.
where we met Christopher, where we have Artie was there.
Yeah.
A couple other guys that we could think of, I'm sure, have probably
Eric
progressed through
Anderson.
there.
Eric was
Eric Anderson,
who
that's
plays,
right. I remember trading Magic. He was always looking for foils.
Sure.
I was always trading in Eric
Yeah.
Anderson foils.
It was one of those places. I mean, not realizing after talking, I went there so many years as a kid. Probably even
Mm-hmm.
before I hung out with them, it was just when your parents took you to Woodbridge, you went to Game Room as a
Dude, you
kid.
remember
you know?
jumping into Sunbird, blasting the Batman soundtrack, flying
Oh.
over the outer bridge?
Get a Danny Elfman.
Get Danny Elfman on the soundtrack, just
On
driving
cassette.
out to Jersey to hit that Game Room because they had all D&D books and our minis that we wanted.
Well, you know what this means then.
What's
If
that?
if the game room was our nexus, that means
Yeah.
that Red Seal is somebody
Well,
else's nexus.
That's
so.
exactly what the point I wanted to bring up was that now that I'm looking back and now we had this discussion about our paths and I am proud to say that we have become a place that people are talking about. This store that we're in right now, this tiny little hole in the wall, 600 square foot place where we started
The beginning.
the beginning, Red Seal, to the second place in Mattawan, to the third place just 50 feet over in Mattawan. I hope people appreciate the time they are spending and remember it, that you're having a good time, that you're having fun, and to bring. Now, I say this, okay, as the store owner, I get it. You're thinking, oh, you're just trying to get more customers in the store. Yes, don't get me wrong. I want to make money. I've said this a million times. I do want to make money.
It's a business.
I am a businessman too, but it's not the main reason I've done this. I've always done this first and foremost because I wanted a nice place. I wanted Dan's Basement without it being called Dan's Basement. And that's what I want Red Seal to be. That's why it has a pinball game in it. That's why it has tons of seating, probably more than most stores in Jersey have, other than the big guy down in
Top deck.
Top Deck down in he's actually in Philly, but I want people to come. I want them to have fun. I want us to be open as long as we can. We're open 11 a.m. to midnight. Why? Because you can come at 8 o'clock and get 4 hours of gaming in and 2 hours of bullshit as you walk out the door.
Yep. You can come in on your lunch break. You can stay till midnight.
You get
You have literally anything, any time to do.
We have people that come in and take advantage of it. I joke, with them. I said, "Oh, I gotta start charging your rent. You've been here so long." I'm okay with it. I'm okay with it. Please come, hang out, chill, bullshit with us. Teach somebody a game. Somebody new might be walking in. There was these 2 young ladies that came in on Sugar. It was Friday afternoon. We just had Tarkira Dragonstorm. which I'm probably going to do a podcast about that too, because that was insane. But it's Friday. It's 11:30. I'm in the store with my son Aiden. We're getting ready. Tarkir pre-release. Even at the 1 p.m. one, we had like 47 people signed up. It was going to be crazy. These two young women come in, and they were like, yeah, we kind of heard about Magic, and we wanted to learn how to play.
Whoa.
They
on
walked
Tarkir release day.
on Tarkir pre-release day at
Good for
11:30,
them.
and I'm like, and I had a little bit of an epiphany. It was part of the reason I wanted to do this podcast too, because now I'm like, you know how they do it in the movies, like, you know, somebody like has that moment and they
Come
zoom
back later because I can't take
I
you
am not.
today.
I am not freaking doing that.
Mhm.
I would never do that.
Mhm.
Even if I was tired as F, I would, and that's what I love about a store. If I was tired and I had to get out of there, I would make every effort to teach these people that game or get them involved, or I would hand it off. I would have the confidence to hand it off to one of hundreds of customers that I know would nurture these two people and make them gamers and let them have that moment. So when they came in, and the reason I wanted to do this episode, because they come in, here I am, the store owner, we're getting it ready. My son and I are working, which is still boggles my mind that my progeny is right there.
He's your general manager?
He's my general manager of the store, and he's, you know, he plays games too. He's not as hardcore as we are because his generation tends to be a little bit more digital, but he does enjoy Flesh and Blood. He'll do board games with us. He's playing Skaven. You know, he does dabble. He's not as hardcore as we are, but you know, we also been doing it longer. But I had that moment where like a character remembers like a certain moment in his life, and the camera kind of zooms into his head and it like travels back. Like you see all these like images of his life,
Yeah.
and everything that we just discussed is what flashed through my head. And it went back to that moment I was playing with Greg in his house and learning Magic. And I would just, you know, hearing Storm in the kitchen, playing Magic, going to the game store to buy more cards, and then I came back and I was back in there, and they actually said to me, "Are you okay?" Because I think I
Time
I
warped.
kind of I think I blue screened.
You phased out.
I think I phased out. I think I blue screened for like 10 seconds.
Time warped.
And they're like, "Are you okay?" I don't know if the young ladies watch the show. I hope they do, but I just started going to my whole dissertation of blah 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 blah. They hung out for like a half hour. I says, "You know, there's an event at 1 o'clock. We still have room. You can play blah blah blah." And they seemed interested. I was talking to them blah blah blah. They like, we played a little bit. We played on Arena blah blah. So they leave. They didn't stay. The event's about to start, and as we're getting people signed up, they walk in the door at like 5 minutes to 1. And I guess they wanted they changed. They went home and they put they had like a Magic shirt and they put that on, and they came, and I'm like, I have achieved what I've wanted to. I've become the guy.
Achievement
that
unlocked.
Achievement unlocked. I have done what I wanted to do. I don't want to be a gatekeeper. Like they always talk about that in our industry, right? There's gatekeepers.
Yeah.
Like people, and a gatekeeper to me supposed to be a good thing. But what they are instead are people that are like, oh no, you know, don't play this, don't play that. I'm the opposite. I'm the guy that's holding the freaking door open and saying, "Come on in."
You like the guy at the town of Brewen opens the door. Who do we have here?
Yeah. Oh, sorry, young masters. It's my job to ask questions.
Yeah.
You know, that's, you know, I come on in, please. And I'm so glad that I wasn't creepy old Dan's Basement owner, that I was shiny head bald
Good
guy.
choice on the name. Once
Good
again,
choice on the
it's
name.
selling
So
itself.
because they came back, they were probably in their 20s, and I know I'm pushing 60. I don't want to be creepy old man. I want to be just kind of cool old guy game store owner that just wants people to come and to stay and hang out with me and hang out with my friends and make friends and whatever. And as far as I can tell, they had a great time. So
Cool.
I hope they watch this, and I hope they come back again, because I would love to talk to them, see how they enjoyed the experience. But
Cool.
our MTG players are freaking awesome, and Tarkir was a great thing. So I'm just happy to have the place that people want to come to, and that I'm not the creepy old game store owner that says, "Are you going to buy that?" Or
The
"You're going to read that."
cellar
This is a
dweller.
library.
This isn't a library.
The cellar dweller.
Oh, let's not get into that. That's my ultimate
Hey.
ego. That's my Captain Harlock.
Well, that's our path.
That's our path. Our path to glory, which we got to start.
Infamy.
Infamy. For you, of course, you got to go there. But thanks for joining us. Hope you like a little bit of history. We'll probably do more stuff like this as time comes on. We have, lots of gamers in the store. I want to eventually get our community leaders in here. Let them tell their story. Like come to the store, tell your story. I mean, it's one of the conversations I love to have with people when they come in. How did you get here? How did you find me? What is it about gaming? Did you just kind of walk in because you were at the axe throwing place and you were like, what the hell is this place? You know?
Yeah.
If you guys ever have questions that you want us to talk about like this, like a little bit longer form, feel free to put them in the comments. That way we have an idea. Maybe you have something that you're interested in that we didn't even thought about.
Yeah.
And that's what I want to hear. I want to hear, how did you get here? How did you become a gamer? How did you get to Red Seal? How did you, what do you like about it? Stuff like that. So we'll keep doing this because as I always like to say, I am never going to stop gaming.
There you go.
That's why it's never stop gaming, because it keeps you young, it keeps you smart, it keeps your brain active. I'm going to go home and take some Ginkgo biloba because I think I forgot the name of the store again.
Alternate Realm.
Thank you. My wife's going to start drugging me. I'm telling you right now. I am starting to forget things. That would kill me. The worst thing that can happen would be like the Notebook thing where I forget everything that I have done and everything we have done. I forgot how to play Magic. Oh my God, that'd be a nightmare. Or I forgot how to roll dice. But again, thank you for joining us, gentlemen. Thank you for sharing. I know some of it was personal. Some of it was hard to share. Aiden, they're going to find out the name of the dog. I'm not going to tell them. They're probably going to find out. It's up to you to tell them. I won't do it. I promise. But thanks for joining us. We'll see you soon. Never stop gaming.
Have a good one.
Bye-bye.